PMCO EU West fall split, day number 5 of the group stage. We are on our second last day of the group stage, and this is groups A and group D's last 4 games to really make a difference. My name is Imperium with the wonderful Zute to bring you all the action. Once again, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Feeling refreshed. Just got some food in me. Took a shower earlier on. Heard you also took a
Nice.
shower. I think we're both
I did.
nice and spiffy for today's games.
Yeah, yeah. I smell okay. I'm sure you smell okay, and I hope these teams are smelling the chicken dinners because there's quite a good few teams that really need some results. We'll be breaking it
hmm
more down once we get past all the formalities and get all the kind of standard stuff out of the way. Of course, let's bring it to the one and only as I look at it. There you go, the format of the
The format.
PMCO, how we started, how we're getting there, and of course, how these teams are going to move forward.
Yeah, so right now, what you guys are watching, if you're just tuning in, is the group stage, the second to last day of the group stages. Every team is playing a total of 12 games, 4 matches per day. The top 16 or the top 15 from the PMCO advance to the finals of the PMCO, where one team is invited, making a total of 16 teams. And then from there, they will try and fight their way to advance into the PMPL. Next, let's head over to the point system that we know and love so dearly already. Imperium, if you want to break this one down, not much to break down though.
Ooh, there's so much to go on with. Oh my god, yeah, of course, it's all said and done in terms of all these teams are familiar with it. 15 points for a chicken dinner, 12 for second, 10 for third. I'm really putting a focus on those first 3 points because again, a lot of teams are going to be aiming for that. You add in the 1 point per kill can really have a massive impact on any of these teams' overall standings, and it's sure to be a damn fine day of games. Let's move on to the prize pool because, of course, as well as fighting for the finals position, there is that prize pool that's going to come into play
Mhm.
in the finals, and it's 4K for first Ute. You love it. You like the old money.
I mean, money is always good. Just yesterday, I went out to do a little bit of a shopping, and I bought a
Yeah.
bunch of groceries, bunch of food, and I was looking at how
Did
much
you buy
like
a
it all
tricycle?
costs, and I was no, that is the last thing I
Okay.
will ever buy. But I was looking at my receipt, and it's just like, the PMCO money's it could get me by if I were to win, like, first place. That could cover quite a few weeks. So I mean, of course, like, first place aside, everybody gets a little bit of the money. So it's like like if you want to participate in the PMCO and try and get here, like, there's money waiting for you. So why not sign up next time? Watch these games, learn from these teams, and maybe you'll get a shot at the big prize pool yourself.
Exactly. 4 games today. Let's move on over to the schedule. We know it by now. Start with Erangel, have a Sanhok, Miramar, and end on Erangel. It's the kind of map format all the teams are familiar with. But again, because this is day 5, because this is Group A and Group D's last 4 games, there's a little bit more weight on the fact that we have 2 Erangels. Say we have that one Sanhok and one Miramar.
So it's the age old order. As far as Sanhok goes, from all the matches we've watched, I feel like Sanhok is still a wild card for these teams. Like, these teams have played, I believe, 2 Sanhoks each already, but every
Yes,
time the
yes, they
Sanhok
have.
map or the zone has been so different, and the ending of the Sanhok, it always seems like almost any team can come out on top. So having 2 Erangels thrown in, it gives it consistency. So today being the last day, regardless of, the Sandhawk wildcard, every team's performance should be at their very best now.
Yeah, especially when you consider the fact that this is the first time these 2 groups are clashing together in the PMCO. So you have the weight of the fact that a lot of these teams need a lot of points to keep themselves in the running for the final spot. They're going up against teams that, at least in the PMCO, they haven't gone up against. Yeah, you have the craziness of Sanhok. It's a recipe for an action-packed day, and we're certainly going to have it for you guys to watch. Before we break these teams down a little bit more, let's take it to a quick break from our sponsors. We're back in the break, back on your screens. Zute, Group A, Group D. There's a number of teams that we're going to be featuring, but I suggest that we just go right onto the overall standings so we can really put that focus on these teams.
It's between Group A and D. The special thing about today, if we want to take a look at all of the teams playing right now, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Between A and D,
good
a
job,
lot. It's all right. It happens sometimes. But here you see Group A and D. These two teams, or these two groups, will be clashing today. The important thing to take note, though, for today is that a lot of the teams competing today are below the overall top 16. And that's important because all the teams have played 8 games. So everybody is on equal standing once again. And then heading into today's matches, you will get to really see, where some of the teams is going to land, because this is their last set of games.
Yeah, 11 of the 16 teams, should I say, are below the top 15. So I think it's kind of a little bit easier to focus on the teams that are at least pretty much / already secure. The Noisy Boys, man, second place overall in the standings. We'll show that up soon enough, but they had a massive day yesterday. Last fighter looking pretty good. Sheilin, Tip Top, and Tropic, they're also pretty solid. Only needed a few more points to really execute that. But the rest of the teams, those are the ones that really need to make a massive difference. It's hard to kind of put an emphasis on something that is realistically so important, right? These teams, they fight their way through qualifier, they fight their way through scrims, through preparation to get to the point of PMCO, and it all comes down to kind of the final 4 games, to their final game, to really, really make a difference. And it's only to secure a final spot, never mind to try and get for the PMPL. There's a lot of weight on a lot of these teams.
I mean, you hear the age-old saying, the grind never stops. Like, we're watching these guys grinding out right now through blood, sweat, and tears, through mistakes, victories, and so on. And even after all of this, like Imperium said, it's just to get into the finals of PMCO. And then there is even more ahead of them. Then there's the PMPL. And then the PMPL is a whole nother story. And then leading it, I love PUBG Mobile. Like, the tournament is,
I know, man.
It's so long and extended. It gives everybody a chance. But let's take a look at where some of these teams lay, or stand, should I say, when we go into the overall points.
Yeah, the first page, there's not really much to comment on, to be honest. Just to obviously reiterate, FTY Noisy Boys had a fantastic day yesterday. Sheilin down in 8th. They're pretty good, 73 points in total. You only need like a good 15 to 16 to really secure that kind of 90-point cutoff that we're kind of putting on board for the top 15. Let's head on over to the next page, because page 2, page 3, that's where it really starts to count, Zute.
Yeah, on the second page, I believe there's only 2 teams on here that's playing today. That would be Tip Top Esports in 9th place and Entropic in 11th place. So, like we said, today's games, it's really bottom heavy. We want to more so focus on the third and fourth page as we transition over to the third one. Here we see a majority of the teams playing Quattro Fakers, New Generation, All Rejection Gaming, the Gangster X, Team Night Target, and MF Esports. So if you take a look, this is 17th through 24th. None of these teams are in the top 16. So these are the teams that really need to pull it out today, whether it be 4 huge games or just 2 huge games. They need to try and reach that 90-point cutoff mark.
Yeah, I've kind of put 5 teams into a bit of a block that need 2 pretty stonking games out of the 4 today. Quattro Fakers, New Generation, All Rejection Gaming, the Gangsters X, and Team Night Target. Because they're all kind of, they all need kind of 45 to 55 points to really kind of put pressure on the teams tomorrow and to hopefully solidify that final spot. It's going to be easier said than done. Let's have a look at the last page where things start to be a little bit more bleak, but technically still possible.
Yeah, technically still possible. I would say we're looking at DAB Esports today. 4 games. The cutoff we average it around is 90 points. That means they need a 50-point day today. That's more than 10 points a game. Definitely not impossible, but like Imperium said, bleak is the word I would use just as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm giving MF, who are actually on the third page, Conquer Romania, TSC in Pajamas, and DAB Esports. I'm giving those teams essentially kind of the first game. If a number of those teams get a good result in the first game, they continue on in terms of that chance to have a big impact. But if all 4 / any of the 4 teams get a bad result on that first game, in my eyes, I'm unfortunately counting them out of the running for the top 15. It's unfortunate, but it's the way it is sometimes. And of course, Fast Romania, Golden Sport, massive love for both of these teams, and thank you so much for being here and participating in the PMCO EU. And you do have 4 remaining games to at least prove something more to yourself. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, but those 2 teams, they are just out of the running for the top 15.
Based on past results, though, it is technically possible. We're talking about the Noisy Boys, or FTY. They scored 80 points and 82 points. I mean, if we look at Golden Sport, right, they have 10 points. Hey, 10 plus 80, that is the 90. But yeah, of course, I'm just, it's probably not going to happen. And just... It's to put in perspective how big of a day some of these teams need and just how nearly just impossible it is for them. But that is the leaderboards overall. And you guys definitely get a good idea of what's at stake today for these teams. I can't reiterate enough. These are the last set of games for these teams. So after today, tomorrow, all they could do is sit and watch and see where the other teams lie to determine the last overall top 15 that move on to the finals.
Yeah, exactly. One team I kind of want to put a little bit of focus on in the group of teams that I mentioned earlier is New Generation, because I had a look at the team's average points per game for each map. And believe it or not, out of that they're playing today, and out of the group of 5 teams that I have featured, they're the only team to be in the top 3 points, average point scoring for every single map. Now, of course, it technically doesn't matter where they gather the points, but to me, at least that shows a level of consistency / viability for all of the maps. So, for example, New Generation, they have average points of like 8 points per game on Erangel. They have 3.5 points per game in Sanhok, and they have Miramar. They have 6 points per game, and they're in the top 3 of those 5 teams. Whereas a team like Quattro Fakers, as an example, They're nowhere near
Okay.
the average points per game in Erangel. I think they're at like 2 or 3. In Sanhok, they're around something similar, but they have Miramar. That's their only saving grace so far in the PMCO, where they have an average of 9.5 points per game, which is great for that one map. But if you're technically
Right.
relying on one map and you need 2 out of 4 minimum fantastic result games, that really puts you
Mhm.
at a little bit of a, to me, compared to new generation, a little bit of a tougher task.
I see. So even though Quattro Fakers have just only a 4-point lead, right, over New Generation, you'd give the edge over to New Generation simply because of the consistency on all the different
Yeah,
maps. I
yeah,
would have to agree with you there, and that's quite an interesting stat to really like break into and look into. It's not just the overall points, but how these teams do over the course of all the 3 different maps we're playing. And yeah, you have one bad game. Let's say like Quattro Fakers, for example, right? They pop off on Miramar. If they don't do well on Erangel and Sanhok in the first 2, when they usually should pop off, that might just demoralize them enough that when it
yep.
swings over to a Miramar, it might be too late, right?
Exactly. Or if they have 2 bad games and they have that good Miramar game that they've at least shown so far, they're relying
Mhm.
on that last game to pull out a massive result, like their very last PMCO game. So it's quite interesting. We do have 2 Erangel games, and the Gangsters
Mhm.
X, they currently lie at the top of the pile in terms of Erangel, of the group of 5 teams that I mentioned. They have an average of 10 points per game on that map. So you also got to give it a little bit onto them, but they're not the best on the other maps. But at least on Erangel, where we have 2 of those maps today, the Gangsters X
Mhm.
could at least kind of technically take advantage of it.
I agree with that there. And I just to throw in another dynamic to today's matches, right? I believe today is the first day we're going to see the biggest majority of the bottom heavy teams playing.
Yes,
And
sir.
this is due to, all the teams have played 8 games now. Other days, some teams have played 8, some teams have played 4. So it's hard to really determine where the skill in these teams lie because, some teams are missing
Of
games. But
course.
now that we've kind of reset to everybody playing 8 games. And 8 is a good amount to determine consistency, in my opinion. So I think we've finally kind of figured out okay, these are the skills of each of these teams. And with it being so bottom
Yep.
heavy, it could really cause a lot of unpredictability, right? The top teams we see in the world have refined strategy, refined rotations, and it's easier for teams, to watch and learn and know where they go. But for these bottom end teams, they're still trying to figure that out. So it might go all over the place in today's games. I'm actually expecting quite a lot of just wild shenanigans to happen. And of course, the zones are always a factor in play too.
And I totally echo what you said about that with the last day, and with it being the majority of kind of bottom teams. Is it's always bad enough on even something along the lines of the PMPL. When you have technically the final days of the PMPL, you see wild plays coming through. When you have PMCO and
Oh
they're
yeah.
technically less skilled teams and less skilled players, yeah, you're gonna
Hmm.
you're gonna be looking at even more shenanigans. So, and I think
Hmm.
that's where it really touches upon what you said yesterday when I brought into about
Okay.
FTY and about them researching other teams. And you said, well, no, look at
Hmm.
yourself. Look at getting the best out of you and your team. This is the day. These are the games where anything crazy can happen in the final games,
Hmm.
where you focusing on yourself and your team can be the reason why you make it to the finals.
Oh yeah, 100%. You can always control what your team does, but you can never control what other team does. To echo the great words of a lot of streamers that I watch that play in scrims, what are these teams doing? Why are they here? Why are they trying to kill us? We're both just gonna die now. I mean, those. I'm sure those words have been said in the PMCO just as well. If we've had Team Com listen-ins, but today, out of the
Stop.
all days, those words might be said more than other days.
Oh man, it's like I should just have like some kind of like banner made of like what are these teams doing, just ready to show up. But yeah, you're dead right. Like we even kind of saw shades of it in it wasn't yesterday's games, but the day before when kind of Rexpect stayed and I'm not saying Rexpect are a bad team, but just a little hint of
Mhm.
it when they stayed in Crucival and they caught out a couple of players of Sheilin. Like to me, if I was
Oh yeah.
Sheilin, I wouldn't have expected a team to still be in
Mhm.
Crucival. So there's that little bit of unpredictability. We've already seen it, and we're seeing it again. So, and we will probably see it again today. So there's a lot to play for. Sorry about any of the delay, by the way, guys. We are going to be getting into the
Yeah.
lobby like super duper 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 quick for this game on. It will be worth the wait. We absolutely promise it.
So another thing I noticed is Mega Power once again not playing today. We saw La Familia take Mega Power's drop spot. Now today, Mega Power
Mm-hmm.
and La Familia both aren't playing today, and with so many, this is the first time also that Group A and D go against each other, right? That could mean
Yeah,
clashing drop spots based on the research
true.
these teams have done. Now they should know nobody's dropping, Pachinki or Picado. I'm wondering if we might see two teams try and go for that spot because it's the craziness that I'm talking about, right? I'm sure multiple of
Yeah,
these teams
I
have
know.
similar drop spots, and now they're going against each other for the first time. And today's the last day for them. They might, get nervous. They might, so to say, almost over research. Like, where are we going to drop? There's another team dropping here with us.
True.
Let's just go. Let's just go Pachinki, where Mega Power goes. No one else goes there, and we might
Hmm.
see two or three teams go there.
Yeah, it's a interesting thought to come on board as you are about to get into game one. You yourself can enjoy a super fast and lag-free PUBG mobile experience on Xiaomi's powerful Redmi Note 10 5G, the wonderful sponsors of the PMCO EU West. Man, game number one, the final day for Group
Mhm.
A and Group make a difference. I hope we don't see any team dropping in Pachinki. I want to see teams committing to their own drop spots and playing their own game. In the world of PUBG
Mhm.
Mobile, anything can happen. And that quote, like you said, what are the teams doing? It could be at the start of the game.
We'll see. We're about to hop into the plane path. And just quick shout outs to the Noisy Boys. This is your chance to take first place overall. Let's get into it.
Finally could actually prove themselves to be first over, at least for one day. And they can certainly take advantage of the
Yeah.
fact that technically they're going up against kind of weaker teams in the lobby, as you've already
Mhm.
highlighted. But this playing path is beautiful to start today's games diagonally, going from Novo on
Mhm.
Military Island all the way up to kind of shooting range. Couldn't ask for a better playing path.
Yeah, good playing path for all these teams to start off on their very last day of playing before we get to see who moves into the finals. And I mentioned the Noisy Boys real quick is because like they have yet to be number one overall in the leaderboards, and with them
Yeah.
being pretty much the only top team, like the tippy top team that's playing today, the second place team, right? The Noisy Boys, the closest team to them that's playing is in sixth place at 88 points, and the Noisy
Yeah,
Boys have
true.
111. So this is the
Yeah.
time where they sneak the top place, take that screenshot, and be like, hashtag number one in PMCO, and then you flaunt that title for just a little bit. But hey, if they have a really good day today, because this is the easiest, so to say, lobby for them, their goal, I would say, should be to farm the points and to kind of cement their number one overall with a lot of points so that when tomorrow the teams play like FTY for Romanian Boys, Mega Power, La
Yeah. Of
Familia, these other powerhouse
course.
teams, they'll have more points that they need to catch up with, and they'll be going against each other tomorrow. Whereas with the Noisy Boys, hey, it's kind of looking free for them. They don't have all these other power teams that they have to contend with today.
It's very true. Man, I start things off with a great playing path, and I'm like, yeah, cool. And then phase one shows up and decides to just kick not only me, but all of these teams in the face. Now, on one hand, I have a little bit of sympathy, but on the other hand, we're looking at a military island circle. We're looking at it, but it could certainly be a mainland finish. That does put a little bit of trouble and bother and thought on these teams that are in the mainland going, should we commit to military island? Shouldn't we? Conquer Romania are currently on the coastal line of that mainland. They could stay there, especially because they're already near the edge of the circle, which could actually benefit them on that phase 2 shift. This is not going to be an easy game on top of what is already a very challenging and difficult day for all of these teams.
Mentally, right? Today is the most challenging mentally for these teams. It is their last day, and so many of these teams are at the cusp of making top 16. So it's even more important for, like we said, 11 of the 16 teams playing today are not yet points-wise in the top 16. So they really need it. But New Generation, they've always dropped in split loop near the bridge of Ferry Pier. So this very first circle is finally going to really, give them a big break. They have the bridge control so that if it does go to Military Island, they can rotate across. If it doesn't, they're on the main island. But I'm looking at the circle one more time, and I'd say it's 70 to 80% chance that we're going to have a military zone ending. And also all of PMCO, we have yet to see a military island circle. Exactly. It is about time we do see one.
TSC getting a little bit close to night target on the northern edge of the circle just outside Everest. Wild Alone put in the Discord chat, tagged me, said 2 chicken dinners for Team Night Target in today's games minimum. Okay, so I'm going to hold that to them. They certainly need kind of 2 chicken dinners, or like I said, 2 very strong games. Let's see if they can make that count. Aimbot running across the fields of Headshot Hills, just trying to look for a vehicle, while Quattro Fakers, I don't know if they didn't see Aimbot or if they just decided to kind of ignore him and focus on their position into the circle. But either way, if they did see him and chose to ignore it, I actually agree with that, because they're better off prioritizing phase 1 position.
Phase 1 position for this circle in particular is more important than others, because we have the chance of it being Millie Island or not Millie Island. So rotations are even more crucial for this first Erangel circle. And you talked about Night Target saying they'll get 2 chicken dinners. Currently, they're at 45 points, right? The cutoff being 90 points. I mean, they need to do today what they've only managed to do in 2 days. So they need to pretty much play twice as well. And these are some interesting rotations we see on screen. These are the rotations that happen when teams start looking for boats to try and boat over to Military Island.
Are Gangsters X kind of chasing Tip Top? They've already gotten 1 knock and kill onto the side of Tip Top, which is a great start for the Gangsters X. Remember, I highlighted them as being the top performing team out of the group of 5 teams that play high on Erangel at least. Well, this is a good way for them to start the day, building a bit of confidence, picking up a kill. Tip Top, they're down to 3 players.
The first casualty goes out, and they caught 1 player off guard. I believe there was an explosion kill, so they probably blew up his car, and I think Tip Top is going to take the boats. They were driving around all around the east side of Novo for that botation, and I think the botation is smart. The other end of the bridge that they're close to, 7S is already there. Not exactly bridge camping, but that is a team that they would have to drive into, so to say, if they were to take the bridge.
Or what they could do is they could wrap around the whole southern side of Military Island and come through the kind of port area of the south side of the island. So I think that could work out for them as well. And it would be a little bit more calculated. It'll take them longer to get there, but it would make sense, whereas that's straight onto Nova, where they kind of seem to be going. Although it's quicker, could, like you mentioned, put them at risk of 7 sins as they move move out of that Novo area. We'll have to wait and see. Golden Sport, like I said, unfortunately out of the running to get into top 15, but see what kind of impact they can make in these games. I like the fact that New Generation also recognize how their drop spot is already a bit of a target positionally for a lot of these teams, so they joined up quite quickly into this phase one, and they are holding down the Ferry Pier area. It's going to be easier said than done as soon as they have kind of 3 to 4 teams around them and phase two pops up, but at least initially not allowing one of their players getting caught out, it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, Tip Top not so lucky though, already losing one of their players. The Noisy Boys, they have not left Military Island. They're betting that it's going to be a military circle, and they already set up a really strong bridge camp. I'm looking at their formation. They even have sent one player to the far west end of the island to boat camp the boat rotations that usually you see come out of Primors, the Ferry Pier, to try and wrap onto Military Island. So the Noisy Boys, with the really strong lockdown of the entire west side of that military island.
My target, getting a little bit close to each other on the western edge of the map, and of course the western edge of the circle. Dab Esports are in front of them, but Dab aren't exactly really fully set up or fully positioned as a full squad. They're still kind of getting that rotation. I like that they're holding on to the southern side of Quarry because it's high ground and it gives them a lot of information onto that kind of hillside above Primorsk. I really like Dab's position, although Tika is a little bit off away from the rest of his team. Phase 2 is popping up. That's a big boy shift down south.
I don't think you can even see the bottom tip of that circle. It has shifted off of the map further south. The Noisy Boys, I was talking about, hey, this is your chance to rack up kills. I see maybe like 40 players on that west side of the map that looks like they might be driving straight towards the Noisy Boys. We'll just see how this one plays out, as that circle shift, not pretty for all of the teams besides the Noisy Boys. Pretty much.
And I know it's easy to say now, but that's why I recommended Tip Top to go on towards that kind of southern boat rotation of Island. It would have fared them off a little bit better. Now, I've got to give credit to Seven Sins because it wasn't just a bit of an eastern bridge camp holding onto, but it made sense for the phase 2 preparation where it went. It was always going to set them up quite nicely for that phase 2 rotation. They're already in the island, close to the eastern edge of the circle, and they can set themselves up quite nicely. New Generation, their boat gets blown up. They have to exit, and they have Quattro Fakers close by. Desperate times, desperate measures too. Both of these teams need very good results, and it's not really looking the best for New Generation. Quattro Fakers faring off a little bit better.
Just a little bit. Quattro Fakers have 2 boats, whereas New Gen just had the one, and you see Agon here. He was the culprit, blowing up New Generation's boat. Agon still looking for the fishies, though. And I'm taking a look at the mini-map. No one is trying to cross the Noisy Boys bridge. I almost want to say maybe they should have set 2 people where Agon is to camp the boats instead, because there's so many boatations going out on the western side of the map right now.
I see where you're coming from. I low-key disagree because I don't think you can pull off a successful bridge camp with 2 players. So you either have 3 players there or you have none there in that regard. That's kind of my perspective. Okay. Although I see where you're coming from. Conquer Romania are definitely going to have a bit of a tougher job, but it seems like they're committing to that kind of mainland area. We have a few teams going for that eastern bridge rotation. All Rejection Gaming and Tropic still in the blue on that mainland, and Shilin, they've made their way across. I kind of like the fact that Seven Sins didn't hang around too close to the eastern edge of the circle in the hopes of picking up a kill, instead of going, well, look, okay, we'll allow a few teams to get in, but we'll be much better positioned for that phase 3 shift.
Yeah, I just can't stop looking at my mini-map Imperium. It is...
Stop.
It's crazy. You should see the amount of teams still in the blue zone, the amount of teams in boats, and just the amount of no oneness in the center of the circle because no one can even get to that area of the circle right now with it being such a hard military island circle.
And by the way, last fight are going for the widest boat rotation I've ever seen. Like, they're so wide off the mainland that you can't even see them for the time being. This is absolute madness. And the next shift goes even further down south. Still a good 40% of water in play, but that's where Quattro Fakers, with that double boat rotation onto the southern side of the map, they have benefited massively. But now it becomes a big part of how well they're going to be able to control their position. All Rejection Gaming picking up a kill. The Gangsters X, unfortunately, losing a player. Again, both of these teams need good results, and if they lose players early on, it's going to make it tougher.
This mini map right now doesn't even look like a PUBG mobile game. It looks like a racing game with the with the amount of people and cars and boats. We're still at 62 alive. Imperium. Yeah. Everybody's still trying to rotate. No one has even had a chance to fight yet with how ridiculous these circle shifts. This looks like a racing game almost. I like, no joke, but we see Quattro Fakers here. They have managed to find a spot. Tip Top has managed to find a really strong position. Tip Top's positions right now is actually center of the circle. That is how far south we are right now with these zones.
Also love the Noisy Boys position on the side now. I think they hold on to a great spot. MF suffer a couple of casualties right now. MF Esports are 24th. They need all 4 of their games to be absolutely stonking, and losing players once again inside the first 3 phases is not going to leave them in a good spot. Golden Sport all but out of the PMCO. Let's see if they can make a difference. Looking for KMA of New Generation. Dab Esports also swimming in the water, looking for that mainland spot. This is not good for these teams.
All right, so I mentioned it looked like a racing game. Now it looks like, a swimming game. There's like 3 full teams in the water on screen right now. We got New Generation, Dab, and then off to the side, I believe that's another full team of I can't even tell. There's so many teams here.
You got Golden Sport, New Generation, and Dab.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Oh man,
beautiful.
Golden Sport, 3 kills already onto Wandu, just fishing right now.
And that's why I said, like, they may be out, but at least they can have a little bit of an impact. And Blind is left on his own. Dabs tried to take advantage of that, moving away. Down goes New Generation. They're the first team eliminated. Of course, their PMCO journey is far from over. They still have 3 games to make a difference. Just puts them under a bit of pressure. The first casualty of this wild game 1 in Erangel.
Yeah, I think Golden has actually managed to climb up on those rocks there. I don't know if that was planned, but that's really smart of them to know to use that location. You see the rest of the teams on the south side of the new circle. That's where everyone else boat-tated to try and get on to the mainland, and you see how congested it is. And the circle finally centers up, but we're pretty much just on the most southern part of the playable zone of Military Island.
Quattro Fakers, Night Targa. With this circle shift, they are on the edge of the circle, but certainly looking a lot better for Quattro Fakers because they have those players in the mainland. Loki's using those rocks to move around, might be able to get an idea, but I don't know if Gus Stick from MF has moved. I don't think he has. He's going to cook up a nade. Loki hasn't been able to spot that for the time being. Maybe he moves away just in time. Yes, he does. Nader and Kubista moving onto that rocky area makes it a lot harder for Loki to do anything in that area. They're pinched for the time being as last fight. Yeah, last fight are just on their last legs inside the water.
Next circle is going to shift off all of these people too, most likely. So that's just the blue zone at your back and the unclimbable rocks to your front side. The last fight, they have 4 up, but it doesn't it doesn't even matter how many people you have alive when you're
Yeah.
put into a situation like this. Like, they're trying to find a way to climb up. I don't think there's a climbable way up. So many. I see 4 teams still on the south side, like the shoreline side, the rock side of these zones, and the blue zone. This blue zone is going to get more kills than a Sanhok blue zone.
2 of the 5 teams in the block that I have that need 2+ good games have gone out. The Gangsters, the second team to fall in this Erangel game. Did also notice that Quattro Fakers had a player get knocked down. The hands of Night Target. He will get revived up. Dab Esports are still trying to hold on for the time being. Golden being pushed back on the edge of the circle by Noisy Boys as Shilin. They're punishing 7 Sins.
Golden Esport, they've managed to find a way up, but they found their way up straight into the Noisy Boys, and you see the shots coming through. The Noisy Boys are looking to a hard camp Golden Esport or Golden Sport because they're not quite yet in the zone, and there is no hard cover. You see Mazzaro already taking an aggressive position, a forward angle to lock this team down.
Okay, good by Anacasio to get that knock. It does something. A good bit of utility being used with the smokes to try and create a bit of a wall. There's not really much that the Noisy Boys can do, although Mazzaro comes in to get at least 1 knock onto Sam, but it's returned very quickly. Dab make it onto the Rocky side, and they could come in and third party the Noisy Boys. Mazzaro, he's on his own. Beg for mercy. He's gonna come in on the buggy while Agon holds him down. Really good teamwork for the Noisy Boys. Good focus, but the 2-man team of Dab, they of course push Agon back a little bit more heavily.
Dab, the rock climbers, have managed to find their way up right behind the Noisy Boys, and that circle shift, Noisy Boys get the zone. They also have the only compound, and that's another hard shift far to the west side. Majority of the teams on the east side, that rainbow slew of colors, all have to move in, including Tip Top, who no longer can use their compound as it is not in the next zone.
Somewhere over the rainbow, they're gonna have to follow the yellow brick road into the circle. It's not gonna be easy to deal with. I gotta give credit to the Noisy Boys. Like, they're really doing a great job of covering so many angles inside that compound. And it's only gonna become a little bit more difficult as more teams focus. A possible crash might happen. 7 Sins are eliminated. Take care then, bye now. It's never going to be easy for them in this PMCO last set of games for them. MF still in the water. You have last fight. They made their way onto the rocky areas of the coastline and military island with the M24 line. Sushio could definitely have a big impact for them from the teams moving from the east.
Yeah, just earlier we were watching last fight and it looked like they were stuck down there, but they managed to find a way up onto the shoreline sides, and that actually puts them in such a great position in this next circle. They're on the southern edge, meaning they get to gatekeep a lot of these teams. In this area of the zone, it's not very hard to press. It's not very easy to press into. So at last fight, this could be a really huge game for them in terms of the kill points.
Night Target go down. That's great for Quattro Fakers who are in that fight to get the points required in a safe manner for this top 15. They have to deal now with last fight in front of them. Conquerors Romania did make a push into that compound from the hillside up north, but the Noisy Boys are reacting to that quite confidently. 2 players into the building now. Mazzaro, Andy pushing on forward. You have Beg for Mercy trying to hold down Edge on the outside. Andy's going to get knocked while trying to throw up a grenade. Fulton comes in to get that confirmation. Beg for Mercy. The rest of the Noisy Boys now start to focus a little bit more heavily on the players that are inside the building to try and get that shutdown. But we're in 2-3v3.
Conquer Romania with the aggression. We saw them stuck on the outside of the building, but they flipped the switch. They pressed further in, and they caught that player off guard. The player had that grenade in hand. The Noisy Boys now down to 3. And Conquer Romania with a beautiful nade and an instant nade to follow up for that thirst. That second nade might be huge. It actually bounces in and out of the window, but Conquerors Romania finally putting up a fight, but I think it might be too late. They're sitting down in 29th place with only 26 points.
Oh, and then this next circle just centers up out into the open and Military Island, just to add the cherry on top of what has already been a crazy game. Golden Sport now coming in from behind, pinching the Noisy Boys. Like I said, it was only going to get harder for the Albanian side, to be fair, right? As the compound was a bit of a focus in the previous circle, teams crashed in, and now we're down to the last player of the Noisy Boys, and it seems like he's going to lose his life. Mazzaro looking to try and just stay quiet in the back row of the building. Sam makes his way in. Mazzaro finds a knock. You don't go into a building on your own. When it's like that, switches over to go, gets another one on the one to Mazzaro. Shows why he's one of the best players in Europe. Single-handedly a dangerous dynamite of a player. But at the end of the day, he can't deal with the full squad on his own. Gets 2 down. Golden Sport survive.
Secures 2 kill points in the midst of pretty much a 1v4 last alive. Good play to Mazzaro. But right now, taking a look at the circle, currently almost no team is in the circle. Tip Top has the edge of the circle. But you see it right now. They're down to 3. And there is, what you see on screen right there is the last final zone. There's some trees and some rocks and a lot of smokes and grass. So teams really got to make use of their utility or what's little left of the cover.
Every single one of these teams is on the edge of the circle, and teams that were able to pick up a car or two in that Military Island might fare off a little bit better, like Tip Top, although as I say, that Vulcan gets a beautiful spray from behind to get that knock. Sheilin going to be the next victims in the hands of Conquer Romania. Golden Sport, the 2-man team, have been able to push in and do actually hold on to that western edge of the circle quite confidently ahead of a few of these teams. This is game 1 of day 5. That's all I can say.
I don't even know how to cast this one right now. It's just literally 360 shots all around. Every team pretty much has sight lines of everybody else. There's 15 players alive. Golden's pressed a little bit more on the inside. I don't know if they found like some minuscule dip or something, but teams are just forced to lay prone, pop some shots off, go prone again, rinse and repeat, and just hope you don't get shot across the field.
Eds gets taken down. So do another one of the Conquer Romania players. Vulcan left on his own in the flat terrain. A Military Island down. Conquer Romania go. He's actually holding out a little bit of hope because they're into the top 5 with 6+ kills. A gigantic result would have kept them in the button, but it's not going to be the case. Tip Top on 4 kills. Golden Sport with 2 players left up. Dab behind them. The next circle shifts into favor of Golden Sport.
Hey, I was saying Golden Sport needs an 80-point day. If they could get the win with that zone blast right there, that's a start to say the least. But Golden, they need some more kill points here. But the nades are coming in from Dabs, and it's picking off Golden one by one.
And it's worse because it's the one Golden player that had a couple of vehicles as protection, right? Whereas Anakacho, yes, he's in the circle, but he has no real cover, although with the help of a nade, with the help of Dab behind him, that's going to be a player Tip Top going down. 0 kills for Dab, but still a journey for them to get into the top 4. Last fight, I don't know how they were able to kind of come in. They took that massive wide rotation away from all the teams in the mainland with that boat and found the rocks to climb up on top. Golden Sport, that last player, I'm kind of putting out a little bit of hope, but a nade goes in his direction, doesn't connect.
Right now, with the way the teams are positioned, Tip Top has a slight advantage coming in from the side that's least congested. We have Last Fight, Dab, and Golden all inching forwards next to each other for the zone. Of course, the last player of Golden smack in front of everybody, just laying low, trying to stay as quiet as possible. Same for everyone else, trying to make as little noise as they can to not give away their positions.
Fair to Tip Top, along with Sheilin and Atropic, those 3 teams I would have argued need kind of one good result slash four half decent results where they're certainly pulling out in this final game of the day. The Blues on the phase 7, encroaching closer and closer before we move into phase 8. Anakato is still staying alive with a sliver of health on board. At the end of the day, it feels bad because he has 3 teams around him. God, I feel sorry for him, and that's going to be a nade from Zero of the last fight to get the last player of Golden Sport down.
Almost every team you see on the screen was tossing some form of grenades or utility at Golden just because he was in the center. And I feel like the teams saw other teams throw stuff there, so they're like, hey, there must be someone there. Let's throw some stuff there too. And Tip Top ends up picking up that one. We're down to the 3 teams. It's a 3v2v2. And last fight has the furthest way to go, meaning they will make the most amount of movement, putting them at the highest risk right now.
The confidence they have to actually stand up and move. And it's going to be putting them at the focus of that one. Killer gets a knock on the Sushio and puts him down to do. Florin has been spotted out, but as he stands up, he's able to get a knock onto a player of Tip Top. Dab is still in the mixer, trying to make it to the rock. Sad has been able to spot him out, but he's going to get knocked down by Sarah. Really good by last fight. The proactive play, but they bit off more than they could chew. They get taken out, and we're down to a 1v1. Dab Esports against Tip Top, but Dab spots up. They get the last kill in behind a tree. Chicken dinner for Dab Esports.
Dab Esports, we saw they had 0 kills just a few seconds ago, but it did not matter because they got the chicken dinner and they got the last kill that was necessary to secure it. Tip Top Cold, I saw him with such good patience and control. He could have shot at last fight for at least 20 to 30 seconds, did not take it until the other teams engaged, and he saw one player was up. You saw the decisiveness, but when he got behind that tree, I think he felt the adrenaline kick in, and that peak was a little bit too wide, and it gave Dab the necessary angle and the necessary shots to clutch out that chicken dinner. I just want to say, Imperium, I don't know what I just watched.
It's PUBG Mobile. That's kind of it, right? If you had told me that you're gonna have a military island finish on the second last day in the first game of the day to really kick these teams in the face, I probably would have believed it, but there would have been a part of me that gone, no, it won't happen. But it's happened. And
that's not even.
It wasn't even one. Yeah, go on.
It's not even. I wouldn't even say that's when you think military island. You think like military island finish. That was a different thing all on its own. Like it was.
Yep.
It was not just a standard military island finish. That was the weirdest, wildest, wonkiest game I've ever probably casted.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Let's move on to the match rankings because there are a couple of teams that, of course, have had some very much needed results in their fight for the top 15. Crazy game aside, Tip Top, like I said, 73 points. They didn't technically need one good result, but that automatically, with 3 games to go, puts them on 93 points, well above the kind of cutoff point that we said. Same last fight, they were even looking even easier coming into these games. Happy days, good game from them. Golden Sport, look, last set of games, they definitely made a difference to their gameplay and they deserved that set 17 points, especially with 9 kills. I gotta give them a lot of credit for that. But Dab, that's the team. They were lying in 25th with 40 points. It's 1 game only. They need to have every single game with a similar amount of points.
Look at the point spread. We have 20, 20, 17, 16, 16. The only way something weird like this point spread wise, whatever happened, would be in a very weird game. Like Dab Esports got the chicken dinner, but there's 3 teams that placed ahead of them in terms of points. and the drop off is huge. You see sixth place coming in at 10 points, and it drops right down to 3. And that is because some teams just never stood a chance when it came to those circles.
Yeah, I can't believe that drop off. I didn't even recognize that, to be fair. It went from like 10 to 3. Let's move on to the second page as well, because there's a couple of teams again that, of course, have made their job just a little bit tougher. New generation, Quattro Fakers, the Gangsters X. They're not looking the kind of the best. Actually, sorry, not Quattro Fakers. My apologies. Actually, a little bit Quattro Fakers, but the Gangsters X. Either way, the teams on this second page hasn't been a good start for them in the last day.
It's not a good. That map was just not destined to be a good start for many teams. We're going on to Sanhok. I can't imagine a circle on Sanhok that would be as weird. Okay, like that last game
Fair.
wasn't crazy.
So weird,
it was more so weird than crazy, because I've passed a bunch of crazy games, and those are like, exciting all over the place. But that one was just, I don't know what to make of it. And those, for the teams that just played in that match, I'm sure they're all echoing the same feelings. But for the teams that managed to get some points, like, I don't know how you did it, but you did it.
Couple of teams have kept their run in the fight for the top 15 alive, but with 3 more games to go, you still have a lot of work to do. Let's go for a quick break, and we'll be back on our screens for game number 2 of the day. We are back. One game down, three more to go in day number 5 of the PMCO EUS. Like we've already stated, last set of games for these two groups, Group A, Group D. Some teams had a good start to the day. Good few teams had a bad start. But that game one was nothing but weird.
Yeah, it was something. It was something else, and just with the way the game one played out, like teams are all over the place. A few of the teams that really needed the points got the points. A few of the teams that needed the points didn't get the points, and then everything far in between, it just happened. You saw the point table of after that first match. There was a huge drop off.
Yeah.
I think top 6 got at least 10 points, and then going into 7th, 3 points, and just downwards. So coming into the second game today, there's only going to be 3 more games left for these groups. And that first one, if you didn't do well, you could kind of just put it off to the side, like scrap it.
Yeah.
At least mental wise, right? Because we talk so much about the teams that really need to do well today, and they need to start off kind of strong because this is it. Mental wise, like I can't even fault you if your team just didn't know what to do, if your team just kind of fell flat. Come into the second game as if it was the very first game of the day. And to be honest, that's how you should come into every game. Each game, it's its own new game. If you could get that mental reset, that's great. I know I kind of even need a mental reset after that first game to just be like, all right,
Fair.
You know the game. You know what's going on, Zute. That last game, it wasn't PUBG Mobile. It was something else.
And we don't have time to show the overall standings because we are getting into this game too fairly quickly. I can tell you that not much overall has changed. All rejection gaming definitely, continue to make that shout for their push into the top 15 with a 14-point banger in that game one. Conquer Romania, although they are now very similar points to MF, because Conquer Romania got 10 points in game one and MF got, I believe, 0. I'm still inclined to kind of still continue to put Conquer up there, even though they still need 3 massive results. It's kind of that momentum, that mentality, despite, like you said, they should try and separate. I'm still putting it in there. But again, otherwise, not much has changed. Reset, game number 2, Sanhok, craziness. Like yesterday, although I can understand why it's a little bit technically less predictable, one team, chicken dinner, go for it.
The Noisy Boys.
You know what? That's fair enough. And let's see if they can continue to make some noise, just like you can make some noise as well as enjoying a lag-free and super fast PUBG Mobile experience on Xiaomi's powerful Redmi Note 10 5G. You're saying Noisy Boys. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say Team Night Target, simply because of the fact that Wild Lone said they were going to get 2 chicken dinners in today's game, in today's set of games. They didn't get it in the first game. 1 down, 3 to go.
Night Target, they could pull it off. It's Sanhok. Never know what's going to happen in Sanhok. One thing we didn't notice was no one dropped center map on that first game, but with Sanhok being such a small zone, I'm expecting someone to fill in on boot camp. So let's head on to the plane and take a look. Is anyone dropping boot camp? Maybe 2 teams are dropping boot camp.
We could for these teams' last game of the day. It could go to boot camp. The plane path is dead center. So unlike yesterday, where it did, to be fair, have a bit of an impact to this phase 1, because it's such a dead center circle on a small map, even if it is a wilder phase 1, it's not really going to make too much of a difference. I'm looking out for all rejection gaming, because to be fair, not only did they get a good result today, but out of the block of 5 teams that I've gone on from the start of today's broadcast, they're the highest performing team in actually in Sanhok with 5.5 points per game. It's not much, but again, off the back off the back of that kind of solid Erangel game to pick up, double that between 5 to 10 points. It's very positive.
Yeah, and we actually do have a hot drop fight coming out on the eastern side of that zone between MF and I believe that's Entropic next to
Tropic.
LaQuai. There's already 3 down for
Wow.
MF. And it's just, whoever gets the guns first, I guess. And that's a squad wipe right there. Entropic with 4 points. Very nice.
And that's kind of why when I mention Conqueror compared to MF, Conqueror Romania compared to MF, I continue to keep Conqueror in there and took MF out. Second game, MF go down early. Yeah, they're out of here. Take care of them. Bye-bye now. Thank you for participating in the PMCO. Still 2 more games to go. Let's see if they make a difference. But now, Quattro Fakers, Night Target, my team, to win this second game of the day. It's important that they defend themselves quite nicely. They're a little bit separated. Quattro Fakers do look better positioned.
They do look better in position, but the Noisy Boys have already pushed out of Paradise. They heard the early gunshots, and they're coming here to third party.
True.
Now, the teams do have a bit of spacing between them, so it might not be a blitz third party like we usually see in Sanhok. But on the flip side of things, Golden Sport is also moving towards the east, towards the Noisy Boys. We might have 4 teams involved in a fight very soon.
Yeah, I thought Chrissy was going to be the first one knocked there, so out in the open. Barely had a tree as cover, and he gets taken out. You're right, and I love the fact that you kind of break that third party down from like a blitz of a third party to maybe a kind of a slower third party. That was definitely a slower third party, but it does still put Quattro Fakers down to 3 players. And in a Sanhok team fight, that really is a massive impact, and it's going to stop them from being confident. Now, I'm curious, did the Noisy Boys get a little bit of information on Golden Sport entering Paradise Resort and they moved away? I can't help but feel that's the case, because that's super duper coincidental otherwise.
I don't think they've got information from. I was looking at the minimap. There's no clear way they could have got that information, but it's just the team experience, right? They noticed that third party they were going for, it was spaced out, and both teams were kind of in a deadlock. Meaning, if you're the first team to make a move, both teams will be looking at you, and they were kind of exposed, so they just stopped staring because there was nothing to stare at, and they just reset back, and they're going off in the kill feed just as well right now against Golden. TSC picking a nice one on to dab the chicken dinner of the last game.
Yeah, dab. Continue to keep their PMCO final spot in the run from a game 1 performance of some fantastic points earned. They got 16 points and a chicken dinner the first game of the day. But now in this Sanhok game, they're going up against TSC in pajamas, looking to put them back to bed this game. But they're trading knocks. Quashi with the AKM 6X. Not going to be doing too much from that long distance, my friend. But at least a couple of shots fired will slow down the Dabby Sports side. Tika is revived, which is very important considering they lost Maskoff.
He definitely should have switched to that QBU he had on his back, and we missed it off screen. But the Noisy Boys actually finished off Golden just super cleanly, super quickly.
Oh, wow.
The Noisy Boys with 5 kills right now. They did not lose a single player to the side of Golden Sport.
Wow. Credit to Golden Sport. It's quite obvious that they are looking for fights in these games for the most part. They are pushing themselves, and I will give them a lot of respect for that individually. TSC Legends, Dabby Sports, TSC have been able to recover back up as a 3-man team, and they've 2 together, which I think gives them slightly better control or turnaround potential. While Sad, Slobos, and Tika, they're much further apart, so technically easier for them to be picked off one by one.
It's a 3v3, but it's pretty stalemate. That's a really nice knock. Not really revivable. The two other players of Dabs have to kind of hold down and lock down their angles, or else they might give up too much. Sad. If anyone's going for the revive, it should be Sad, as Bot is in the central position. He's the one that's close range, holding back the push of TSC. And TSC does look like they want to capitalize off this knock. Oh, this could be a really good flank by Kwashi, going underneath the bridge and next to the riverside.
And I think they're trying to preemptively predict that Sad is going to go for that revive, so looking to catch him off even more, although Kwashi is on his side of the way. Sorry, Sobo, should I say? But that's great reaction from Kwashi. That's Dabby Sports eliminated. That's TSC in pajamas. Still staying up. Really good play by them.
Yeah, both of these teams need a really good day, more so TSC. So it's a start. 4 points already, but they did lose a player, and we've always stressed how important having manpower is on Sanhok. That fight they just took, they're going to have to take more of those fights to just navigate the rest of the Sanhok. Like, they don't have a car. It's rare to find cars, and Sanhok, it is rare to find good pathings for vehicle rotations. It usually always ends up with players getting shot off cars or crashing straight into a team and dying.
I'm still kind of going based on my kind of starter broadcast predictions or starter broadcast kind of narrative of the 4 teams that I featured that needed all 4 games as good results. And Dab did get that in game 1 because of that early exit in game 2, only 1 kill. I'm putting them out of the mix. Same at TSC and Pajamas, simply because of the fact that even if they do get 3 out of 4 pretty fantastic games, you have the teams above them, right? You have the Gangsters, X, Night Target, All Rejection, New Generation, Quattro Fakers, as well as all of the teams tomorrow. So that's why I'm just going based off that narrative. But we'll have to wait and see. Last fight. Looking for a fight onto the Noisy Boys. Already 5 kills for the Albanian side. Feeling good right now in their final set of games in the PMCO.
5 kills this early on. You can almost see why some teams elect to fight early on Sanhok, because once you move into the late game of Sanhok, it all really comes down to the circles and the Noisy Boys. They went for those fights. They got the kill points early. 5 points padded onto your team's back when it's not even onto the second zone yet is a really good confidence booster to play out the rest of the Sanhok match.
For sure. You're dead right. Man, okay. Okay.
The second circle shift.
It's
coming out.
It is coming up. Conquer Romania. Still in slight running. Fighting for the top 15. New Generation. Benefiting from the phase 2 shift. They're in the center of the circle.
This circle shift around so many teams are just pretty much set. I don't believe we'll see too much movement. Unlike the first game, where we had probably 15 out of the 16 teams in vehicles and boats and water trying to rotate and chase the circle, Sanhok's much nicer this time around, just giving the circle to everybody. We might see some slight movement on the teams on the edge, wanting to inch just a little bit closer. But in Tropic, you saw they were in the circle, previous circle. They got the circle again. Does not look like they're willing to move anytime soon. And they're just going to wait for the next few shifts to make a better game plan of what to play out.
Chilin looking to control that kind of eastern side of Quarry, but still hanging on to the southern part of it, I really think is perfect on this Quarry area. Because if they went up to that kind of northern half, it would be a big commitment to that eastern side of Quarry. Whereas being more in the south, it gives them a lot greater exit potential if the phase 3 shifts over to the west or the southwest of the map. So I really like that play from Shilin. All Rejection Gaming still being inside Lakwai. Well, actually, sorry, should I say rotating to Lakwai. But in Tropic, who are already on 4 kills, are to the east of them. Or to the west, should I say.
Last Last fight rotating up onto this hill. This hill is a very commonly played spot. And you can see it, last fight's trying to bait out some shots with that buggy. He's going up and U-turning around, hoping if there is a team up there, they'll give up their position. But 7 Cents playing extremely quiet. They're biding their time. You see this circling back and forth, and they're actually getting third-partied by New Generation from down on the other end of things. That might actually give last fight a good idea that there is a team in front of them. They hear the shots from down south. A player gets knocked in the kill feed. Put the 2 and 2 together, and last fight should be prepped for this.
As a player, kind of yourself, or as a former competitor, how easy is it to correlate that, to put that 2 and 2 together to make kind of 4? Is it easy to kind of turn that into a 5 and a 6 and then you get it wrong? Or, you know, it's not easy, I can imagine.
That was not the easiest to put 2 and 2 together, as like the angles are so far apart. But I mean, when you get a nade thrown in your face, I think that really kind of tells you that there's a team next to you. So last fight, I'm sure they know now, but they would rather have known sooner than later. Now they're deciding to back off. They're at that man disadvantage now, as the grenade and Molotov came out for the thirst, and I don't blame them. That hilltop fight really comes down to just who has more people alive in the fight.
To me, if you're going to go for a small disengagement, don't use the vehicle. I really think that's a silly thing to do, because you're making way too much noise and it stops being a disengagement, because that's going to alert the attention already even higher of 7 Sins, plus potentially Conquer Romania, who are now a lot closer to them. So that was a mistake in my eyes coming out from last fight. Next phase is about to pop up. It centers up quite nicely. We're once again looking towards a quarry finish. Still a lot of areas around it where it could shift on the next phase, but still with quarry in play, it's becoming a little bit trickier for these teams.
Right now, not too tricky for a majority of the teams, just chilling in the circle. But the shift after, it's going to go one way or the other, and it will definitely throw some teams off guard. Conquer Romania taking the compounds. Now we have 3 teams on top of this hill. Yeah, it's only one team's going to manage to make it out, and there you go. Conquer opens up the fight, but they have no idea last fight is here, I don't think.
Yeah, they don't really have a clue, unfortunately. I really like that by Conquer Romania, by keeping a player on the outside. You're pushing players into the compound. You're essentially creating a bit of a bait situation. Now, I would have preferred it to have been a 2-2 split with that kind of strategy, because there's a higher chance that Ed would be revived. Now they have to force the reposition. Dino Boy, that noise is going to be made. It's only going to open the door for last fight to chuck a couple of nades, that kind of thing. But good theory from Conquer Romania, already on 1 kill at least.
Yeah, the revive will go out, and I don't think last fight's in any rush to really make a move, as they're the only 3-man team between these 2 teams fighting. Or I think 7 Sins did lose a player up there just as well. So Conquer Romania, the only 4-man team, and it's kind of up to them to make a move. They do have the vehicle. I think both of these teams might just wait it out and see the next circle shift, especially since the team's presence has been made known. We have 3 teams fighting here. Neither team really wants to make a first move in that position.
And I respect last fight not looking to go for a bit of a push on that, recognizing that they're down to 3 players and they don't really have the full information. And maybe there's also elements of, well, there could still be teams coming from the west. So if we take too long, commit too much to that fight, we could get third-partied ourselves. So really good decision-making from last fight. New Generation still on the western side of Quarry, that warehouse region. They have 2 players a little bit more forward to the edge of Quarry, I believe, on towards that sniper tower region. I like that, because I think it allows them to better control a bit of a crash, a bit of a push from another team, as opposed to all 4 players holding on to those warehouses.
Yeah, the split definitely is important when you've just been kind of chilling. You want to set up that defense, bolster it as much as
Yeah,
possible, at least until the next zone shift. You see this next one about to
exactly.
shift out. We have a major stack of teams on that western side due to the circles shifting kind of east each time. Let's see where this next one is going to go. And it does shift more to the east. Now you have a rainbow of colors on the west side. None of them are in the zone, and all of them are going to be funneling in to that quarry drop,
Yeah.
as that's going to be the easiest spot for everybody to get to.
I feel a little bit sorry for New Generation. They can make it into that Western Edge. Of course, it's going to be a lot more difficult for them. Couldn't have asked for a better shift for Night Target. Last fight, looking to take advantage of TSC and Pajamas. Two of their players knocked down. Just Reaper left on their own. And for TSC and Pajamas, surely that's a little bit too presumptuous. You can't be running out in the open on phase 4 like that. I know technically their circle shifted away, and maybe they were thinking, okay, well, because it shifted away, teams aren't going to be looking behind. It's Sanhok. You got to expect that teams are going to be looking in all directions. If you're running in the open, you're asking to be picked off.
Not just that, just because the circle shifted away, there's multiple teams usually always caught on each other, making movement very slow. And the Gangster X, they're making their move right now. Last fight, using that buggy, trying to move further into the circle, but they're just going to move into a different team fight. This is one of those zones where teams could kind of just, take more of the engagements and get the kill points. Fourth circle hard shift on Sanhok, teams rarely ever make it in when it's a hard shift away from them.
Whoa, that flank from Florin is pretty big brain. Actually going outside the blue, catching the players of Gangster X from behind. Really good play from last fight. So much respect for that. That turnaround, a triple knock. Chacha OP is on his own, and that's all off the back of Florin flanking around.
Beautiful play by Florin. You rarely ever see that at the PMCO level, bar even the PMPO level. Prioritizing the fight by running towards the blue to get that off angle came in huge. Conqueror Romania does manage to edge their way into zone here. They have the one player of 7 cents to take care of. They are getting third party from distance. They are using that cover back and forth. Get the finish. Manage to keep 3 up. One player gets knocked though. They might be able to get that revive. Last fight, still not yet in the zone, but they picked up 4 kill points along the way.
Ooh, interesting for New Generation. They've opted to kind of commit themselves onto the quarry low ground region. I don't dislike it, but I see where they could hit a brick wall, and that next circle does center up around the Noisy Boys. Night Target. This is a very important fight for Night Target, to be fair. If they can take down the Noisy Boys, it could be really good for them in their fight for the top 15. Last fight themselves, just Florin left alive in the blue. Gonna look for Chacha OP.
That'll be a 1v1 to the death in this blue zone. Chacha OP versus Florin, but both players, they do know where each other are, and this is Sanhok for you, ladies and gentlemen. 2 last players fighting it out in the blue because the circle shifted away. Florin's got that nade cooked, though. Does toss it out. Does hit him, but Chacha got that first save off. Chacha's going to go for that push. He's got that vector. Florin gets his first aid off, and the UMP comes out on top. 2 first aids left, but that is the last of Florin. As these other teams, we still got fights happening every which way.
Yeah, I thought Florin was actually going to survive, but you called it. To be fair, now Sheilin and Tip Top. Sheilin doing a wonderful job pushing in from the edge, suppressing the members of Tip Top. Just 1 left on his own. 6 first aids on board. Curious if on this kind of circle, if any of these teams are looking for a heal strat. All Rejection Gaming might be looking to pull that out because Bobby is in the blue healing up. Conquer Romania, I've got to give them so much respect. I see the fight that they're looking to pull off. Getting the kills, trying to hover in between the balance of the kills and position, but it's going to be easier said than done on this phase 6 push. Vulcan goes down, Dino Boy is left on his own. Quattro Fakers taking advantage on the edge of the circle. They pick up a couple of kills.
Another team taking advantage of Quattro Fakers. So it's the Noisy Boys. The Noisy Boys are uncontested right now. They have 4 players up. They're at 10 kills. They've created enough spacing for them to just take shots at everybody else, since everyone else is still fighting amongst each other. And that zone shift does favor the Noisy Boys heavily. We're down the last 6 teams. Qilin, another team with 4 players alive and in the zone. It's going to come down to the Noisy Boys and Qilin, and maybe Quattro Fakers with the 3 players if they can manage to find a way in safely. But it is not looking good for anyone else on the map right now.
Well, I don't know how easy it is for Qilin to get third party from the Noisy Boys. That's one thing to kind of think about. It's not the easiest. Of course, depends on where the circle shifts. Quattro Fakers can hover around the edge of the circle, even if it means they're technically taking away a spreading control of this current phase. Next one is about to pop up, and Tropic are still alive, to be fair. Give them credit. They've had a couple of kills on board. Sans looking to hold on to the sands of time in this final game of the day. Sorry, final Sanhok game for these 2 groups. Dino Boy has been able to make it in. Snaking on as I spoke too soon. The caster curse comes in, and Blade takes him out. Quattro Fakers pick up their 6th kill.
Got 4 teams left. The 4th team, being All Rejection Gaming, is actually just med stratting out in the blue. So realistically, we only have these 3 teams on screen right now. Qilin trying to make a move into that zone. Their forward player gets knocked. And All Rejection, I think he's out of first ace. He might be able to come in and even take some shots at a Qilin player before... Nope. Nice try. Secured the placement. Top 4. Not too bad. But now we're down to the last 3 teams.
To be fair, very important game for both Quattro Fakers, and I would low-key argue Qilin, to be fair. Quattro Fakers pushing on, focusing on the members of Qilin. This is really good. Focus on one fight at a time. Gets a knock with the Uzi. Knocked in return. He pushed on his own. Low-key paid the price. Blade behind. Going to be that second push. But now they're both going into the open loving arms of the Noisy Boys, who take down Quattro Fakers. And now they can pick up more kills. The final kills of the game. They're going to secure the chicken dinner. Your pick takes the game. And that is the Noisy Boys on top.
The Noisy Boys, today is their day. They honestly also could have done better in that first game, but we'll put that aside because they came out busting in the Sanhok match. We saw they started the game off with already 5 kills extremely early on, and the circles worked in their favor. They had the confidence. They had the team synergy, the teamwork, and they made the spacing. They made it look so easy, keeping 4 up when everyone else was already getting picked to shreds. That was a very dominant performance by the Noisy Boys.
Just controlled really well, to be fair. And you kind of said it at the start of the day that the Noisy Boys could take advantage of this arguably weaker lobby and hoover up a lot more kills, a lot more placing points, and make it obviously a little bit more difficult for the teams tomorrow to overtake them in first place. Let's have a look at the match rankings of the second game of the day in Sanhok and see who fared off better. Of course, the Noisy Boys look good, but so did both Quattro Fakers and Qilin.
Yeah, Quattro Fakers, that was a good win for them. They had 58 points coming in to this match, and they just racked up another 13. That puts them closer to the 19-point mark. All Rejection Gaming, they only had 1 kill point, but you saw that Medstrat pull through, and they secured a 4th place finish, giving them 8 placement points, 9 points for All Rejection Gaming. They were at 65, add up another 9. They're getting closer and closer to that 90-point.
Exactly. And even Entropic, to be fair, 13 points for them. That puts them now, coming into this game, they were on 68 points with 13. That kind of leaves them at 81. That's obviously closer with 2 games to go. It's still, I don't know why, but I because of how kind of often Entropic have low-key choked in the past, with all due respect to them, I still have that little bit of 2 games to go. Can they get
Slight
9
doubt? Yeah.
points? That kind of thing. Yeah, but hey, look, prove me wrong on Tropic. Third game, pull it out big. Let's move on to the second page if it's ready, so we can see the bottom half of this Sanhok game. A night target. Once again, not a good result. And Wild Alone said they were going to get 2 chicken dinners today. Well, we're 2 games down. We haven't seen it happen.
New Generation, also not a good game for them. They were at 51 points. Tack on another 3. That's only 54 points. Tip Top, not too well, but they've already padded their points in the first 2 sets of games they play. Yeah, the Gangster X. I mean, everyone else here: Seven Sins, Dab, MF, Golden. It is pretty much just the door is closing on their face right now, and it is going darker and it is looking darker and darker for these guys as every bad game is not they need a good game every game, right? And so this one definitely not going their favor.
Exactly, simple as that. They do. That's why I really give a lot of respect to Conquer Romania, because out of the teams I said needed all 4 games as really good results, they may not be getting the 15 to 20 points that they realistically need, but 10 points in game 1 for Conquer Romania, 9 points in game 2, they're certainly heading in that direction, and compared to the other teams, that allows them to stand out a lot more positively.
They are doing better, but overall, points wise, they're still behind. A lot of teams are still behind in a lot of points, but starting off the first 2 games, getting some points, that is the right direction. Now, if they can just flip the switch to like an FTY or the Noisy Boys kind of show out, I mean, 2 games, if they get 20 points each game, maybe, just maybe. Exactly. But I don't know, man. A lot of these teams, we got to start counting them out for the finals.
Of course. Well, we'll count out to a break, and when we come back, we'll be heading into game 3 onto the desert map of Miramar. Halfway through day number 5 of the PMCO EU West, this is once again the final set of games for Group A and Group D. Not going to stop emphasizing that. We saw a noisy boys chicken dinner in the second game of the day. You picked it. Gotta say, you got it right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was an easy pick. The Noisy Boys, right? They really showed they're worth the noise. But let's head over into the overall leaderboards now. We're halfway through. This should give you a good idea of where some of these teams lie. Now, all the teams with 10 matches played, those are the teams that we're watching right now. And the front page, I think, regardless of how many matches have been played or how many points they got, I think all of these teams are pretty safe to say they are going to make it into the finals. So let's head over to the second page. These teams here on the second page, you could kind of say the same. They still need a couple of few good games to really cement it, such as Entropic, All Rejection Gaming, and Quattro Fakers. And there's 2 games left for them. They're not in a bad spot. They're definitely in a more comfortable position than the rest of the teams.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, out of the block of 5 teams that I mentioned at the start of the broadcast, Quattro Fakers, New Generation, All Rejection Gaming, Gangsters X, and Night Target, the only 2 teams that are staking a claim for themselves to secure that top 50 spot is All Rejection Gaming and Quattro Fakers. With 2 games to go, they're on the right path. Nice to see Entropic getting closer, like you said. But as we move on over to the third page, because it's really important, that's where it backs up once again my previous point. New Generation, 54 points. The Gangsters X, 50. Night Target, 48. You've only got 2 more games to make a difference, guys. Don't make it easy for the teams in tomorrow's games. Don't make it technically boring for us. Make it exciting. Put in the fight in your final 2 games.
I'm sure they're trying. They're definitely trying to put in the fight. Like, we see a lot of these teams, they're at least rotating together, and they're not making silly mistakes, so to say, but they're just not playing well enough to get those results that they're looking for. Dab Esports, they have 1 chicken dinner, but that was, I think, on the very first day. Ever since then, they've been kind of falling flat, and 2 games left to go. The only one of these teams, I feel like, can have a chance to stake their claim now with only 2 games left, because if one of these teams do well, that takes opportunity from the other guys. And so let's go on to the very last page before we head into the next match. And looking at the very last page, Conqueror Romania, like 45 points. Ooh, they need another 45 pretty much in 2 games.
I know.
Yeah.
And like, that's why I agree with you in terms of I need like 2 20 plus point games. And yes, it's very difficult, but that's why I still wanted to give them the respect based off the first 2 games results and say, hey, I recognize that you are looking to try and get more points. You are looking to secure the results needed. You're not quite hitting it, but it's a really tough path, a massive path, but you are on that path. But for the rest of the teams that have 2 more games to go today, Golden Sport, 7 Sins, TSC and Pajamas, MF, yeah, I feel like the game is over, so to speak, for these teams' fight in the top 15.
Mm-hmm. I would say at this point, just go down fighting. Put on a show.
Exactly.
Just make a name for yourself. You don't ever want to just go out with a fizzle. You at least want to go out with like a little bit of like a boom or like a pop. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but you know what I'm talking about, Imperium.
I do, man. And one thing that I noticed from the third page, at least, and New Generation, Gangsters X, and Night Target, all of those teams have quite a noticeable higher amount of kill points than placement points. And that shows me that in this level, yes, they're quite easily able to get kills and pick a player off here, a team off there. But when you're talking about the team effort that's required, that, that orchestra level synergy that we highlighted with FTY to close out the game, to control the late stages of a game, those three teams specifically are lacking that execution.
Mm-hmm. I think what might be happening is these kill points that are coming their way is not so much a planned, decisive, like we want to take this fight to take this position and we get the kill points, but more so due to we're kind of stuck. We're not in a good spot, and there's a team next to us also in a similar situation. So they pick up the kill points, but it's in such a bad position. It's such a bad fight to take that they can't get the placement points afterwards. And they just put themselves, further and further behind in the match. And then it eventually shows up in the rankings and the kill points and the placement points, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we see high kill points where we're like, oh, this team, they can fight. They know what they're doing. They just need a few better circles. But we're quite far into the tournament already. And if your kill points are still way higher than your placement points, then that just means you need to prioritize your fights better. Make it more decisive. Don't make it a last stand type of fight, but have a more aggressive, proactive fight to put yourself in good positions for the placement points too.
And I'm going to kind of use, even though we didn't see it on camera in the last game, but Night Target, they were quite close to the area of the Noisy Boys in, I think, phase 6. It was on the kind of mountain to the east of Quarry. Now, I know Night Target went in there a little bit later than Noisy Boys, but in no way, shape, or form did they even get a kill onto one of the Noisy Boys players, right? They lost that fight and got wiped out like that, right? So you are dead right about prioritizing a little bit more on those team fights, a little bit more of that setup to take those team fights a little bit better for that late game. Yeah. So there's more to go. There's 2 more games left. We're heading over to Miramar. Before we go there, just to let you know that you yourself can enjoy a super fast and lag-free PUBG mobile experience on Xiaomi's powerful Redmi Note 10 5G, the fantastic sponsors of the PMCO EU West full split. For the laugh, for poops and giggles, third game of the day, your chicken dinner prediction. Except for the Noisy Boys.
Except for the... Honestly, with the way the lobby is looking, I would pick Noisy Boys again. Like, just not because I picked them last game, but like quite.
You're not allowed to. No. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. Sorry.
Okay, then I'm just not gonna pick a team. I'm just not gonna pick a team then.
Okay. Listen, you know what? I have the cojones to pick a team. I'm going to go for Quattro Fakers. Let's get into the playing path. Okay. Let's get into this game. Miramar map is on your screens. It's on your way. The plane is flying over our screens. We have a little bit of a north plane path going from the Ladrillera area all the way to Campo Militar.
Yeah, this plane path, the southeast side of the map, not very easily reachable. This type of plane path will definitely impact the course of the game, especially depending on where the first circle pops up. And before the match starts, I just got to say, Agon, if you're watching this back, you better not let me down, because I decided not to even pick a team outside of the Noisy Boys for this chicken dinner.
I see how it is. Zute is simping the Noisy Boys. I feel it. I can recognize. As a simp myself, I can appreciate it. Last fight gonna drop in El Pozo to themselves. Curious if anybody is gonna go to Picado. We highlighted how, of course, Mega Power have that compound when they're playing in the lobby. They're not playing in this one. Quattro Fakers gonna go to Valdemar region. A few teams heading towards that kind of southern part of the map between them, Tip Top, and I believe Entropic.
I think I see 2 teams going for Hacienda right now between TSC and Pajamas, and that does look like Quattro. The Quattro's
Mm.
doing somewhat of a split, though. TSC looks like they're just stacking it. And elsewhere on the map, we have two teams also dropping in Cruz de Vale. So this playing path causing some early altercations potentially.
Yeah.
We'll just have to take a look in the next few minutes if any of these fights actually break out.
Very, very important fight for Night Target. I can't stress that enough. If they do clash up against Seven Sins, they either make the decision to take the full-on fight or disengage away. And the same could be said for these two teams in Power Grid, the Gangsters X Dab Esports. Remember yesterday's game where the Gangsters X were able to take advantage of a team that had a split drop in this area? Well, this game, it's definitely a lot different. 3 of the Dab Esports are in this area, so it's going to be a little bit trickier for the Gangsters X to get that control. It's Conquerors of Romania, unfortunately, losing a player early on.
TSC saw the split that that Conquer Romania was doing. They saw the 2-2 to the south, 2-2 to the north. So they looted up very quickly and are pressing that man advantage. They already picked up 1. They should have the info that a second parachute was in the sky, so there should be 1 more, but it looks like TSC... Oh, okay, TSC is not backing off. TSC is actually setting up to clear out the rest of their south side.
Feel bad for Conquer Romania. I'm getting behind them. They can still do something with a player down. Hopefully they don't lose another. But back over to this fight. It's a lovely 2-2 setup from the Gangsters X. But one thing they are probably not going to be aware of is possibly Tika from behind. Ruby opens up with a knock on the mask off.
Tika's got to make his presence known quick. The aggression's already coming out. I know he was going for the flank, and he probably wanted the opening knock, but the Gangsters actually get it. He has that M4. He has the scope. He goes prone to control that recoil better, but I don't know if he's got the time to go back and forth like that. He manages... Oh, the shots come in, but they go prone themselves and lay behind cover.
But it's enough of a distraction. Technically enough of a distraction, but this trade on board between both of these teams is definitely not what any of them would have wanted. The Gangsters X still have 2 players up. Maskoff is crawling. Sad also maybe going for the revive, but Tika has to, of course, slow down the other 2 players of Gangsters X. It's starting to be done. Bad Boy moving around, and like I said, this fight is so important for both of these teams. Every casualty, every player, every play, every movement counts, and without a scope, Bad Boy gets the shots off to Tika. Tika is trying to wrap a little bit further around, using the low ground outside of Power Grid to move around and maybe join up with the rest of his team. Again, that distraction has allowed the rest of Dab to get the revives off, so they're down as a 3. And Bad Boy, he's committing to this 1v1. Ballsy, but I don't agree with it.
I think Bad Boy's trying to make a play happen for his team. He knows they're kind of in a tough spot, so if he can isolate this 1-1 and win it, it'd be huge.
Okay.
It gets the off angle. Bad Boy, no best, by the way, managing to win that fight, and now the fight has reset into a 3v3, and they have the angle advantage from Bad Boy. But these 2 players of the Gangster S, they need to slow it down just a little bit for Bad Boy to come back into the fight. Taking too many... Oh, but it's a trade. It's a 1-for-1 trade. We're back to a 2v2 situation.
No, yes it is indeed. Sad Maskell. Mad kill on a sliver of health on board. Needs to wait for his teammate Bad Boy to come alive. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Well, they're gonna come in and shoot you on board with a UMP. He's saving the day. He went for the solo, pushed on the Tika. He got it done. He turned back around, headed towards Power Grid, and got the second knock on the mask off. He's now pulling off a revive on the Chacho P. Mad Killers around it. He's going to get revived. Of course, the players from Dab have probably gotten the revives off a little bit quicker, but both of these teams are broken, they're beaten, they're scarred, a lack of utility, a lack of healing. The third-person perspective for Sobos. He's going to commit to the outside, pays the price, walks into the bullet to Chacho P.
Oh, Slabos. I'm usually not harsh on stream, but that was a throw. I don't know what that player was hopping straight out of a window into multiple angles of the enemy lines of sight. That's completely through the fight. And you see the last player of Mask Off, he recognizes this and he's going to back off. But kudos to Bad Boy, clutching that 1v1 with no vest at a disadvantage, going for the push, and then clutching the trade to reset the fight. Bad Boy, definitely the MVP of this fight for the Gangsters X.
Said it was a very important fight for both of these teams. The Gangsters X were not looking the best. They needed all of these points. Now, let's be fair. Despite them winning the fight, I would argue their looting phase is completely reset because there's not that much equipment in Power Grid, right? And because that fight was quite elongated, pretty much all of the healing that both teams would have had were most likely used. So really, they need to go back to square one, think about the fact that they, of course, will have to start looting again and maybe play a little bit more on the edge of these first couple of circles at least.
I would 100% agree with this. Such little loot, they do need more. Most teams, they take too long to loot and they stack up on too much, but the Gangsters X, yeah, their loot is actually kind of in a very sorry state. The meds, the scopes, the weapons. But I've seen teams win Miramar by edging. Those are teams with a lot of knowledge, with a lot of team synergy, and not to mention, those are usually teams that have 4 players alive. The Gangsters X did lose 1 player in that engagement.
New generation, tip top. We've already seen one team that are fighting for the top 15 spot get a good start. We need to see another one, this time New Generation blowing up one of the vehicles that Tip Top held onto. It's great play because with vehicles being so important in Miramar, taking out one of your opponent's vehicles like slows them down way more than any other map. So I appreciate that for New Generation. Little bit of an update with Night Target and Seven Sins. Night Target got 3 kills out of that fight. Very important start for Night Target as phase 2 shifts to the west.
Yeah, phase 2, that circle is a pretty good shift for everyone. It doesn't really hard shift away from anybody that was looking to come into the circle, but it does put into play that mountain south of San Martin, which could be very tricky for teams to navigate. Also, in Graveyard, that giant hilltop east of Graveyard that the Noisy Boys are occupying, that's going to put a lot of spacing and pressure, pushing many teams more towards the edge of this circle on the east side.
Night Target driving in a little bit blind, heading into the path lines of TSC. I don't know if they're going to have to kind of commit to that fight. Chile moving in from the blue for the time being. And I would argue, on a side note, that this kind of circle shift is actually worse for the Gangsters X, because even though they're still in the circle, because they need to continue to loot up, they probably would have preferred a circle shift away from them so they could have moved into the circle looting at the same time.
Yeah, because they are somewhat there, because the circle landed on top of them, so to say, other teams coming in from the west or behind them are going to potentially drive into them and thus cutting down on more loot. Whereas with a hard shift, complete opposite end, you'll have less chance of a team stopping near you. So the Gangsters X, they'll find some scrap loot here and there still, and maybe they can manage to get a good position in the circle just as well, because it didn't shift too far. We see All Rejection Gaming making their rotation. This team is on the far eastern side of the map, so they're going for a wrapping rotation to break their way into that western circle shift.
And I find it weird that they're wrapping south of Impala. I would have preferred an entrance via the Junkyard Hills. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, because I think the high ground between Junkyard and Minas would allow them to have, you know, moved in a little bit, not necessarily slower, but step by step, and use the high ground to get a little bit more information. Whereas coming in from the south of Impala, I don't know if there's as much of an advantage.
I would say they're making the right choice. The rotation pathings or
Okay.
the lines of rotations from the south to the north is much easier than from the east to the west. Because
Fair.
yes, they could use that high ground, but remember the noisy boys are taking that graveyard position. If the circle
Fair.
shifts anywhere towards the west or the south, the noisy boys are going to be a dead stop for them. So instead, they're going to come in from the south side, and there's still going to be teams in front of them, but the defense of the teams in those areas is more manageable than that of the noisy boys with their position.
And, to kind of, because I totally agree with that, and it cancels out my point of view, and to even bring in something that I will always remember from when we casted PMCO NA, the exit potential and the exit viability of the next circle is, I think, a little bit easier from the south side. So, I think that's really well played from you. And as it happens, it shifts down south, and all Rejection Gaming, they made the right choice.
Indeed. And you can even theorize if the circle shift elsewhere. You could see how they could wrap back to the south to go to the west, or wrap back to the east to go to the north, so to say. And they could also cut in, whereas if they stayed north of Minas and they had to move past the noisy boys, that's a really difficult one to make. But that's just one rotation. So many other teams thinking the same, thinking about their rotation. How are they going to navigate this one as another? Wow, he hit. Oh, dude, he just hit 2 shots with that AK-6X, getting that player down to 50 HP. No knock, though, but great shots nonetheless.
Just a committed rotation, although they do stop to take shots towards TSC and Pajamas, and that's where maybe reacting to the circle shift a little bit quicker can benefit a team. She didn't react to that circle shift so quickly that they were in TSC and Pajamas position pretty much before TSC started moving, and that's really positive for Sheilin, just to point that out. It's so valuable to react to the circle shifts a little bit more effectively, and they're opting to wrap around the mountains of Minas Gerais as the Gangsters X are going to pick off the last player of Dab Esports. Another kill on board. They know what they need to do. They know what they've lost in the first 2 games of Gangsters X, and they are not going to let it happen again. They're going to turn their tides around.
They trade a kill point for some more loot because they were under looted, but they lost their only car. They blew up their car in the process, and you can see it already. Cha-Cha instantly trying to find another vehicle. I'd be surprised if that buggy has all 4 wheels intact. I know at least in PMPL, teams love just blowing out buggy wheels as they are rotating, leaving nothing for other teams to use. So maybe that buggy has 4 wheels. We'll never know, but MF Esports rotating in onto the Northeast, another team that really needs a big game. We don't know if they're going to be... I don't think they're going to be able to pull this one off, because that spot right now, not much sight lines to control rotations, and they are on the edge.
Also, low-key put them out of running because they're on 41 points, and they haven't had a good start to final set of games. I don't mind the rotation they pulled off, by the way. Similar to TSC, it was overall a little bit safer. Gave up maybe information for a little bit of safety. That trade is always going to be there, but I think it made sense for those 2 types of teams. New generation, of course, going to start to be put under a little bit more pressure because their part of the map is now continuing to be inside the circle. Last fight, Night Target, all going to be looking in their direction. Then you're going to add the teams that are outside the circle, such as the Noisy Boys, Quattro Fakers. Tough, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for a lot of these teams, including the team that's got in the circle, New Generation. They're going to have so many teams surrounding them. They just got to really plant down their defense and put enough pressure to force the other teams to fight each other. All Rejection Gaming, they have the very edge of zone. The next circle, though, they got to move out, and they're pressing these teams away, which is very good to see.
There is one compound in this phase 4 circle that's unoccupied, but it's not a good compound because it's at kind of the bottom of a pretty
Mm-hmm.
big dip, and it's very flat around us. So if you commit yourself to that compound, you're committing it for the whole game. And phase 4, you don't really want to do that. You want to allow a little bit of viability in your rotation for the next phase. Conquer Romania onto Gangsters X is good. MF onto Quattro Fakers, but Quattro Fakers have the backline support, and that's pretty good stuff from them.
And taking some shots at Quattro, though. I think Quattro moved a little bit too far ahead too early on. And of course, if they can survive this onslaught, they have the circle and they can force the blue to press onto MF. But one of Quattro already goes down. And the mini with the 8x, those shots must hit. It does not connect. The blue zone is closing. Quattro down to 2 players, but at least they are both in the zone.
Just third parties, to be fair. Shilin, I believe, have kind of picked up that kill, the knock onto the player of Quattro Fakers. That's going to benefit MF, who are going to be able to move in via that compound and get closer to the edge of the circle. Yes, there still is 2 players of Quattro Fakers there to somewhat gatekeep them, but that defense is noticeably weaker. All Rejection Gaming holding on to that edge of circle position as well. We see 7 Sins in the feed on board. MF opting to go for a possibly different path, moving to the northeastern edge, and Conquer Romania, fortunately, being on the wrong end of the stick against 7 Sins.
I like that pre-nade attempt by Blade, but it does not connect. Now MF, they got 1 player in the circle, so they have a foothold. That grenade, though, is huge. Quattro just down to 1. I don't know if MF have kept track of the kill feed, but they should know this Quattro team is extremely weak, and they have a really good opportunity to take this. Chilen coming on the backside of the Noisy Boys, putting some damage and hurt onto them, as the Noisy Boys, I think they're forced stuck into a shack right now.
Down goes Quattro Fakers. Not the result they wanted, not the result they needed. More importantly, new generation as well, pushing back the Noisy Boys. The Albanian side, who've looked so good in the first 2 games, pinched in between 2 teams. Chilean looking very strong on the northeastern edge of the circle. New generation have opted to go for a bit more of a committed northern side position, but it shifts back over to the west. Tip Top are going to benefit from that. Golden Sport close, but no cigar inside this circle. Last fight, they hold onto the northern edge.
Do you remember when New Generation took out Tip Top's vehicle way early on and you complimented it?
Yeah.
Well, on Tip Top, they never needed that vehicle. They got the zone every bit of the way, but these 2 teams, or should I say these 3 teams, did not get the zone, and you can see them scrambling to make their way in, or at least prioritize some kill points. Shilin down to 2 players. They could be getting the revive, but the circle's already closing in 10 seconds, Imperium.
Oh, the Gangsters X go down as well. No, not what they want. And I got to give credit to the Noisy Boys, although they have a player going down now. I think they were doing a great job of really, handling the fact that they had all 4 players in one area by at least synergizing on their shots and synergizing and making the most of a bit of a tough situation being pinched in between 2 teams. The turnaround might be there, plus MF are opting to kind of ignore the Noisy Boys and play for their edge of circle position. Grenades are flying a mini red zone, encroaching, and that's going to be the end of Shilin. The Noisy Boys take advantage of that, and the revive on the Beg for Mercy will keep them up as a trio.
Beautiful grenade, but can the Noisy Boys take another fight with only 3 players and very short on time? Tropic, great opening. They still have so far to go into the circle. Then they got multiple teams to press through.
George Sands as a duo. Only Bobby in front of them, but yeah, Golden Sport kind of gatekeeping them as well as Tip Top. Pushing back Gold and 4 teams in one area. Not going to be easy for any of them. Lots of smoke's going to be laid out to try and create a bit of a wall. Luckily for Entropic, because Bobby is the only player, less likely he's going to look to make some noise. Might allow them to focus on Golden Sport, but the distraction might be there. 3rd, 4th, party all around. And like I said, it's not easy, and Church is going to get knocked down. Tip Top taking advantage of that. Sans gets a first aid off just in time, and Sans gonna get dropped down. Bobby comes out of the smoke to take down Entropic. Down they go.
All Rejection Gaming, not only did they get that kill point, they secured another placement higher in terms of placement points, and he might be able to stay alive on that edge of circle. Depends on how hard Tip Top wants to go for that finish, but they also have Golden next to them. So that Bobby player, yeah, Bobby gang, he's chilling. He's made it in circle. He can lay low, but that new circle shift, nobody is in the zone.
I'm a little bit surprised that Tip Top haven't been a little bit more aggressive on the Golden. I know now they're getting the most of the fight, but I thought they would have executed a little bit more aggression a little bit earlier in that one. At least Wandu left on his own, and let's see if he can wander around and keep himself alive. The CPDD gonna lowball a nade in amongst the smokes. That should be well placed. Oh my god, a third party from last fight from the other side of the circle slows down Tip Top and keeps Golden Sports fighting this game alive. Feels bad, man, but that is the product, again, of Tip Top not taking that fight earlier. They get third parties.
Oh my god, that was the biggest I was so ready to feel the satisfaction of that nade come through, and at the last second, it gets denied, and now they're finally cleaning up their edge. They managed to do it a little bit slower, and they do lose a player for it, but they can make their way into the zone now, and that's All Rejection Gaming out.
New generation blind, just trying to dance around the bullets. He is inside the circle while his two teammates are on the outside. The Noisy Boys, by the way, went out earlier. MF third and second last game for them. Definitely having a good result, and gotta give them credit for that, but they just have Nader left on his own. Great play by Bangs. Tip Top in front of my last fight on the controlling northwestern edge of this circle. 4 players up for them, and they're certainly going to try and take advantage of that.
This circle really actually favors New Generation. One of the teams that needs one of those big games in the last two.
Yes, sir.
In the last two we have right now. And New Generation, they have 4 up. They also, I would say, have the positional advantage. If they can make it to that first ridge right now where Red X is pushing up to, they have a means to get the high ground onto last fight. Last fight also with 4 members. They really need to prioritize this defense right now and focus their attention the correct way.
The good thing is that both teams are less at risk of being third party by Tip Top, but I have noticed that the last player of Golden Sport, if last fighter pushed back a little bit more, then he might be able to get a third party. But Red X is going for do or die. New Generation trying to control their destiny in the PMCO EU, but Shushio is going to open up the knockdown board with him, and now goes another player. New Generation pushing on forward one by one. You got to make that defense work. Bands gets a knock. That's good, but Florence doing a great job of being defensive, but dips it too far forward, pays the price. Reki goes down. Last fighter eliminated, and New Generation, they pay it forward, and 9 kills for them.
Oh, Tip Top, they managed to clean out their side of the circle, and they're capitalizing off that third party. It's a 3v4 situation, though, as New Generation did get off the revives. They are able to get off the heels. Tip Top forced to slow down that push, and now the util will probably come into play.
Well, look at that backline from Tip Top, right? Stupid Pig stopping New Generation from able to peek up in that area. Now, Tip Top did use a good bit of utility earlier on in a couple of fights, so I've got to wonder how much limited they have available, whereas New Generation maybe finding the moments to loot up their opponents, could have picked up a few more nades, a couple more smokes and Molotov here or there, but for the time being they're not using it because they're already inside the circle on this phase 7. They don't want to take for granted how Tip Top can turn this fight around in their favor despite having the body advantage. I'm pretty sure both teams, they're confident that it's just a one-on-one, but Stupid Pig opens up, gets a knock onto Reddick. Blind is going to get knocked down. 2v1. Tip Top on top once again.
That was a beautiful executed 3v4. They had the wherewithal to keep Stupid Pig back on the high ground, and you saw how close it got. He took a one-on-one there, but his positional advantage got him that 1v1 win with just a sliver of health left, and then the two other players close range. They really banded together there. Tip Top finally showing themselves once again. I know on the very first day they came in huge, made a lot of noise. The second day completely fizzled out, but they come back with a chicken dinner on the second to last game of the day. The real team I want to focus on, though, is New Generation. That was the game they needed. They got the kill points. They got the placement points. They need another one just like that to really break into the 90 points, though.
They do. 110% they do. Coming into this game on 54 points. I think they had 9 kills with that second place. That's definitely not going to be a bad thing. Let's move into the match rankings. Less speculation. We'll have more core idea on how these teams did. Like you said, New Generation really looking good. 21 points in that game. Man, it's close, but they need it again.
Yeah, they definitely do need it again. MF Esports also with a decent game, but they're at 41 points coming into this. And with 13, that is not enough. All Rejection Gaming, I thought they had more points than that. We saw them really make it towards the late game.
Yeah.
Only 5 points. That puts them at a total of 79 right now. If they want to hit that 11 or that 90-point mark, they're going to need 11 more points. So quite a few teams. Just it all comes down to this last game for them to try and hit that 90-point mark.
But even then, nothing is secure because they'll have to watch in the wings of tomorrow's games and hope that a lot more teams around them bomb. That's going to be a different story to tell when we get to that point. Let's have a look at the second page. See which teams are really struggling. Night Targa, once again, with 4 points. They were coming into this game on 45. That puts them at 49. Hate to say it, but your PMCO journey seems to be over at Night Targa. Sorry to say, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. And Conquer Romania. Man, 2 games, 2 positive results. Still had a massive mountain to climb, and it seems like the Everest of a final PMCO set of games became too much, and they only get 3 points in this Miramar game.
Another team we haven't really focused too much on is Entropic. They came into this match with 81 points. They only got 4 points. That puts them at 85. I know they only need 5 points more, but the pressure is on for them to this is going to be their last game. And I would almost argue when you're so close to getting the points you need and there's only 1 game left, that could really throw off certain teams if their nerves are not calm. If they panic a little bit too much or have too much adrenaline and make a hasty decision, it can really backfire. And I mean, you see it here, 9th place to 16th. The most amount of points a team has got from 9th to 16th is 4 points. And that could easily be Entropic in the next match just as well.
Quattro Fakers as well. Coming into this game with 71 points, and they get 0, zilch, nada, nothing from that game. 1 more game to go. I would argue they need a chicken dinner. They need a chicken dinner because 15 points isn't even going to put them at 90 points. So they need a chicken dinner, and I would argue 10 plus points. That's how massive of a game they need. Because again, the question is, not only do you have the teams around Quattro Fakers that are looking to secure that 90 plus point stranglehold that we're looking at, but again, the teams tomorrow. So that's the thing. It's about that cushion, and Quattro Fakers right now, that cushion is at a minus. They need to turn that cushion into a bed bath and beyond, for God's sake. We'll have to wait and see if they can pull that off. Let's go for another break, and we'll see you guys very soon for the final game of day number 5. This is it. The final game of the day, the final game of day 5, and the final chance for the teams in these two groups to really impact their finish in the PMCO group stage. To be fair, Zute, there's not too many teams that we are really looking at. Teams have failed,
Yeah.
teams have faltered today. Fights haven't been as decisive, but the chances are still there.
There's at least a couple of teams to keep an eye out for this match in terms of if they can make it to that late game, if they could rack up the kill points along the way too.
Yeah.
That's going to definitely come into play. And we keep talking about this 90-point mark. Don't forget, this 90 point is a rough estimate, and I have a strong feeling all the way from like top 15 makes it, right? But I feel like from 12th place at the end, when everything is said and done, I feel like from 12th place to like 17th place, it's going to be like 3 points difference between 12th to 17th. So if you're in there with the 90, you are by no means safe whatsoever. So let's head into the leaderboards. Let's see where these teams stand points wise, and we can have a better idea of what is going on.
Of course, hey, look, credit to the Noisy Boys have had a chicken dinner today and 148 points. It's right now, with one more game to go, a massive result would definitely make it a lot more difficult for the likes of FTY and Tip Top to obviously overtake them tomorrow. That's a different story. But I want to put a little bit of focus before we move on to the second page with Shi Lin. 92 points, because like you said, that 90-point kind of cutoff that we're looking at is only a rough estimate. I've seen other PMCOs where the cutoff has been 92, 94, 95. So they still need a pretty good result. But this second page, this is where the stories are going to end for a few of these teams.
And Tropic right now leading the pack as far as the second page goes. Tropic with 85, that's a 6-point lead on All Rejection Gaming. And when every single points matter, and Tropic has a nice little small head start, but it doesn't really matter. It just comes down to if you have the big game or not in the very final game. That goes for Entropic, All Rejection, New Generation, and I would even say if you could really have a huge game, Quattro Fakers could still have a fighting chance for the finals too.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely have to put Quattro Fakers in there, to be fair. Let's move on to the third page. It starts to get a little bit more dire in this third page. Dab, MF, the Gangsters X. I low-key want to say that if Dab get like a gigantic The Noisy Boys level result of like 34, 35 points, yeah. But with their average points per game coming into this, how likely is it really to happen?
Yeah, you can almost the other thing you need to consider, right? When you look at Dab, MF, the teams with 11 matches played, let's say they get their points, right? They get a big show out. Look at the teams around them. Rex, Team Kingsman, Red Moon, also with only 8 matches played. And they're ahead of them right now with only 8 matches played. So let's say one of them tomorrow out of the 4 games gets one good one. That pretty much nullifies the last game that they're able to play today. So this competition right now with this format, you're not just competing against the players in the lobby. You're literally competing against teams not playing. So you have to go one step beyond and do even more exceptionally well. So Dab, MF, the Gangster, just take it one game at a time. This being your last game, just do your best. It's looking grim, but don't think too hard on the point calculations because, I mean, a good result is still a good result when it comes to the very last game.
To channel my inner Maxman, they have to go Super Saiyan mode in this final game of the day. Let's move on to the last page where, being straight up honest, it's all and done for these teams, but they do still have a bit of a chance to have an impact. And again, credit to all these teams for being in this PMCO group stage and for giving it all they have a lot of respect for that. But Conquer Romania, TSC, Golden Sport, Seven Sins, yeah, feels bad, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this last game, who to watch out for, and just I don't know, the environment is definitely different when teams are playing the very last game of a qualification series. The nerves are there, teams are on edge. The teams I'm looking at in specific, right, would be All Rejection, New Generation, and Quattro Fakers. The teams that really need a good last game.
Okay.
I think they
Yeah.
at least one of those three, we might see them choke and make a major blunder in this final match.
If this says anything, and I'm inclined to say it doesn't, but I always like to provide this kind of information coming into this kind of game. New Generation once again have 8 points per game in Erangel, at least coming into today's games. Tip top, should I say, the Noisy Boys, they're 15.75, but that's a different kind of story. However, a 15-point game would definitely not be a bad thing for them. So that context is for sure helpful, but it might not be the bigger picture. The bigger picture, though, the fantastic sponsors of this PMCO EUS, Xiaomi. You can enjoy a super fast and lag-free PUBG Mobile experience on Xiaomi's powerful Redmi Note 10 5G. It's 30 minutes of intensity ahead of us. Like I said, stories will end for some of these teams. There might be heartbreak. There could be sliver of hopes. But at the end of the day, it's up to every single one of these teams to control their result, control their destiny as much as possible.
I agree. Make the best of it. You came this far. Why give up now? You got just one game left. Give it your all, and let's head into the very last game. Let's see what these teams got. This is going to be the very last game you see from Groups A and D.
Lane path is on your screens. Let's get this show on the road now. Unlike game one of today, where we had a very nice diagonal plane path, it's quite a tricky southern plane path going from around the Quarry region to Novo. I'm hoping that results in a bit of an opposite of game one, where it's an awkward plane path and a solid phase one circle, but it's never something you can presume.
Or we might just get another military circle. Very low chance, though. I think the only circle we haven't really... There's two circles we have yet to really see on Erangel that are like those crazy ones. The one that ends on Mount Everest, and then like a Stallber circle, right? Like those are the two we haven't seen yet. Fingers crossed. Maybe we'll get one of those tricky ones, but...
I want to see a Pachinki finish.
Oh, okay, yeah. Talk about finished. We already have a start to a fight happening out in Primorsk. We got two teams there. Quattro Fakers, one of the teams that needs that huge game. They're going to be in an engagement with Golden. I'm curious to see if they're actually going to commit to that. Wait, we have three teams here.
Whoa!
Sorry, hold
teams?
that thought. It's MF, Quattro, and Golden.
Last game madness is on your screen right now. Blade only has a shotgun, a sliver of health. He's going to get knocked down. However, Godlike is able to return that knock onto Cubista. MF only starting as a trio, so that puts him a little bit more in the back foot compared to Quattro Fakers. Just two players left up, and this duo is working in tandem. Really nicely played with one in the building, one outside the building. Gustik goes down. Golden Sport, will they be alerted to those shots and look to try and third party? If they do, because of the distance and the way both of these teams have moved, they might not be able to take advantage of that, right? Because both of these teams are now moving away from Golden Sport. But a very important turnaround for Quattro Fakers, not only picking up 2 kills, but not suffering any casualties.
Golden Sport, I think they missed out on an opportunity right there. In my opinion.
no.
Oh, wait, hold that thought. As the last player of so he only just got a knock, but what makes that knock so important is that Golden is still pressing in. Like, yeah, this player he's not going to get the thirst, but it's the Golden Sport team coming from behind that Quattro really has to be wary of.
I did notice on the kill feed, by the way, the Gangster's X getting a kill on one of the Shilin players. Again, I'm not going to, like, presume that this is an easy qualification for Shilin with them being on 92 points. So them losing a player early on, you know, adds a little bit of uncertainty to the result. You know, and Golden Sport recognizing that this fight is kind of elongated and they move closer. Quattro Faker, despite getting the revives, they've allowed that push to come on through. Blade is knocked down. Godlike behind the wall, has nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And less likely he's going to get the revive, but with a bit of smoke, that space might be created. One of the Golden players is looking to maybe edge up onto the hillside, which could be a pretty good flank.
Golden, I like that they're trying to take advantage of this third party, but I feel like they could have done this much earlier, at least send one, and then the angles they're taking, they could easily have flanked one way earlier on, and it would be huge, but they're pressing in directly, and they have the meds and the weapons to win this fight, but can they do it?
Well, you mentioned meds. I can only imagine how much limited meds is on the hands of Quattro Fakers, and you can kind of see it right now. Blade has no health. Either does Christie. Not a bandage on board, not an energy drink there to sustain himself any higher. And nice play by Golden Sport to go for that flank around. A side angle by one of the players can be a really fantastic blanket onto Quattro Fakers.
Yeah, I do expect the next knock to come out from Sam if he just moves up a little bit more. They are aware, though. Blade hears the footsteps across the roadside, so they do know that player's position, but it does not change the fact Quattro's not in a good spot.
Blade gets a knock. It's a second knock. With a sliver of health, it doesn't matter. Do or die, it's now or never. It doesn't matter. And it killed a squad-wide Blade with a balance of health. Got the push, and Quattro Faker 6 kills keeps their PMCO final spot hopes alive.
That was absolutely huge for Quattro. Golden, they were kind of out of it, so it really came down to Quattro winning this, and they do. That does impact the potential for Quattro Fakers to move on to the PMCO finals. Now, they dropped in Primorsk. So they weren't ever really doing a rotation priority first circle because they dropped on the edge of the map. So the fact that they're starting it off with 6 kills and they're late on rotation does not affect them whatsoever. Those 6 kills, those 6 kill points, if anything, are a blessing for them. So let's see how well they could play the rest of the game. Definitely off to a good start. And, I counted Quattro out right there from their positioning. But that defense, beautifully well done.
I have the list of teams that are hanging in the balance on their PMCO final spot. And I was ready to cross Quattro Fakers out, not going to lie. But Blade, credit where it's due, he knew that it was do or die now or never and just peeked up at the right moments to get those shots off. Just to, of course, highlight for the laugh, Pachinki's in the center of this phase 1. Just to put that out there. Rejection Gaming did drop in that spot, so they're pretty much looking good in this phase 1, albeit not really wanting to stay inside the city. New Generation committed to that rotation from Ferry Pier in towards the center of the circle. They have Dab close by to them, as well as TSC in pajamas. Again, New Generation currently on 75 points in the standings. Need roughly 16 to 18 points to really keep them in a PMCO final spot.
Yeah, just so the viewers have a better understanding of what Quattro Fakers just did by getting those 6 kill points. We were talking about All Rejection, New Generation, and Quattro being the 3 teams that need to close this one out. Well, All Rejection is at 79, New Generation at 75, and Quattro was at 71. With those 6 points, that puts them on to 77. So 79, 77, and 75. They only managed to just catch up and tie, so to say, with the 2 other teams. So they didn't even get that much of a lead on the other 2 competitors that they really have to watch out for. So it's a great start, but by no means have they pulled ahead.
Very well said. Conquers Romania, tip top close by on the Pachinki Hill. It's a good hill to hold on to inside this phase 1. We're about to get into phase 2. Seven Sins holding on to Potato Hill. Shilin coming out from the south side of school. Last fight, still on the southeastern edge of the circle. Entropic, let's not forget about them. They're one of the teams that continue to need a good result. They're looking good inside this phase 1. Let's see where phase 2 heads, my friend.
I could tell Entropic's definitely playing it more careful. They only need a couple of points. Sometimes, though, that makes teams play too passive, and they end up psyching themselves out. Night Target, though, they drove straight in here ready to take a fight, and they pick up 1 player. I like that aggression. It definitely caught New Generation off guard.
New Generation. 75 points, as I said, coming into this game. 1 fight at a time. The warehouse is Night Targets. As Bangs chucks a couple of nades in that direction, he's going to disengage away from the building. Kime has to be there for cover, and indeed he is. Gets a knock onto one of the Night Target players. Of course, the Noisy Boys, they're on the hillside. They could third party this one. But as a nade goes out from the members of Night Target, actually hits one of his teammates, which doesn't want to see that happen. Kime with another nade gets a kill onto Wild Alone. A second knock on the aimbot. New Generation slowly but surely turning this fight around.
New Generation, great util use. Most importantly, none of them got knocked, so they could kind of prep for this defense. I was going to say, the Noisy Boys, they are definitely looking to third party this. You see them like sharks in the background, and with enough knocks coming through, they feel like it is their time. New Generation now having to defend against another team, but not just any team. It's the Noisy Boys.
I don't know how Beg for Mercy got put down to such little health. I can't help but feel it was his own nade, to be perfectly honest. But Kime has to stay very, very quiet. Like, absolute snail. But Beg for Mercy opens up, gets a knock on the Bangs in this 3-way fight. The team that's at most risk is New Generation.
Oh no, Kime, I don't agree with this. Him giving up his position, I know he's isolated, but because he's falling back, it kind of gives the Noisy Boys more room to work with, to press in closer. Oh, but it does come out of Night Target. Night Target gets a knock onto Agon. That does help out Kime readjust his position a little bit more. But it just looks like they're backing themselves up against a wall. Wait a second, I think they might have vehicles over there on the backside, and they might go for an escape. No vehicles. But you see Red X, he's going for that escape on foot, though.
I don't know if he's going for a bit of a big brain, massive, risky reposition on board. Now, the rest of New Generation, the 2 players are getting in the buggy, so they are trying to move away. That disengagement, look, I see where you're coming from with Kime backing away, but if that was at the focus of disengaging away from the whole fight, you can see why he pulled that off.
That was a really good disengagement. If that was the plan all along, then yes, Kime moving at the point he did worked out perfectly. Now, the Noisy Boys still have another team to contend with in the warehouse. A New Generation, they're at 75 points, so that disengagement was huge because it did not look like they were going to win that fight. But now the problem is they're separated, and the circle centers up on the position they just had earlier.
Yeah, I know. They are still separated, and you make a really good point there, but they're still alive. That's all that matters in the final game. I understand why teams are taking a step-by-step, circle-by-circle, engagement by engagement. Entropic credit where it's due. They recognize that there's most likely going to be a good bit of traffic coming in from the eastern side, so they're going for a wide rotation from the northern side, going to try and wrap in via the chopsticks area of the map, which makes sense. A lot of these teams are going to commit, hold on to a core position, because let's be fair, a good part of this phase 3 is in the open areas of this map, as last fight gonna move around conquer Romania. Shots are being fired up. Dino Boy looks to connect, but for the most part, last fight gonna survive.
Multiple teams taking shots on this eastern front. We saw Conquer Romania taking shots at a team last fight that was rotating, but very quickly the gangsters pulled up off on the wayside and putting shots into Conquer Romania, the edge of this circle. Not just this side of the circle, the north side of the circle too, getting heavily congested as teams really struggle to navigate their way in here. The Gangster X still not in zone, but they have 4, and it looks like they have a means to break their way in, or at least scout what's in front of them without having to drive through the minefield.
Of course, to remind you, the teams that we are mainly focusing on in this final game of the day is Sheilin, Entropic, All Rejection Gaming, New Generation, and Quattro Forces. They are the teams that really need to solidify a top 15 spot, with the destiny being out of their control with one more day to go. Still 14 teams alive, 51 players. We're halfway through the blue zone of phase 3 closing in. The Noisy Boys and Night Target still in their compound at the center of the circle, waiting for the fight to be executed. The Gangsters X doing a great job of pushing in onto both last fight and Conquer Romania.
Now they're looking for the kills. This is a team that we kind of have counted out, and that might be why they're playing so aggressive or confident, finding multiple angles, moving around very quickly. Whereas Entropic on the opposite end, right? They're so close to that 90-point mark. They are playing the opposite. They are staying very quiet, taking edging rotations on the opposite side of the zone shifts, and definitely not doing what the Gangsters are doing, which is just rotating down the middle. But that circle shift goes hard to the southwest, and you see the Noisy Boys did in fact start their engagement with their neighbors.
Have they won it completely? I think
It looks like it.
have. Yeah, Night Target are out of here. Indeed, Noise Boys have come out on top. It's very important they hold onto the edge of the circle. Sheilin going on to All Rejection Gaming. Both of these teams need this fight win. More so All Rejection Gaming, I would say, but Bo comes out. However, King Versailles gets the last kill and takes down Sheilin. And not only will take them down, but will allow All Rejection Gaming to hold on as a full squad. Sheilin got 0 points in that game. 0 points.
0 points. They came into this very last match with 92 points, so they'll end their run for the PMCO qualifiers with 92. Now, we keep saying 92 extra points. That's a small cushion. Definitely nothing to feel confident about. They're one of the teams that we'll just have to watch tomorrow to see how it all plays out. New Generation getting some much needed kill points right now. They do pick up that one. Red X, he is just all he has is a halo. I think he's gonna run. He's gonna run back for that shack though. He does not want to get knocked. No teammates next to him to get a revive.
I disagree though. I don't think he really cares if he gets knocked because he's outside the circle and he's on his own. So he's better off at least trying to make some noise, create a bit of a distraction for his teammates, and possibly get a kill like he has done. And if he can make it into the edge of the circle, all the better. So I agree with what Red X did.
Yeah, I did not realize he was nowhere near the zone, and he also doesn't have a vehicle. So every kill point, you may as well get it if the chances of you surviving are low. The Noisy Boys managing to keep 4 up with their fight with the night target. Now they're looking to gatekeep out the Gangster X and keep that eastern side of the circle for themselves.
Yeah, Red X gets knocked at the hands of Mizaroa of the Noisy Boys. Such a good player, Mizaru is. Big fan of him. Ever since I saw him first play for Destiny in the lead up to PMPL, been on my radar. But now the Gangsters X looking to encroach onto the Noisy Boys space in the southeastern edge of the circle. 7 Sins! Team that look to push both, could look to push both these teams back. It's going to be easier said than done as Ruby gets a knock into the Judy.
Really great knock. The Noisy Boys faltering just a little bit. The angles and sight lines a little bit too much for them to deal with as 7 Sins also looking their way. And this watchtower gives them the height advantage to peer down just enough to see the tip tops of the Noisy Boys' heads.
Entropic have the western side of the circle. Lovely rotations they pulled off so far in this game. Quattro Fakers on the south side. You can see it on our screens as we head into the next circle. New Generation, the duo, is in the center in the open fields. Do or die. The circle shifts in their direction. Now the compound held onto by TSC and Pajamas is in the circle. But I would say Entropic, they have the best position in this phase because it's high ground, is less likely to be crashed upon, and they can pick off players left and right.
This game is a prime example of how wrapping rotations could really play in your favor. And Entropic haven't engaged in a single team fight yet, and we saw them on the edge of the map constantly. And now that edge shift towards the northwest comes out huge. And Quattro, oh, this is not good for Quattro.
No, it is good for Quattro because despite them being separated, where one player got knocked, they have the backline support. Godlike is going to get revived up. And guess what? They're on 9 kills already. This is the kind of game they needed. Looking for their 10th, can't quite hit it.
Oh, that was almost 10th. I didn't know what a good split they had on that defense. It just looked like a player was caught out at the rock, but still, they got more to go. They're not in the zone yet. They want this kill point. I agree with this. Go for that kill point. It's a 3v1 situation. Just don't get knocked.
There you go!
Oh, the play zone, though.
Oh, no.
2 of them got knocked.
It's okay. He's on his own. Oh, no, but they made some noise and... Down he goes. That's going to be the end, I believe, of Quattro Fakers, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, indeed. Yeah. But they got 10 kills. They finished up in 9th. They got 11 points. I don't think it's been enough. I gotta give them credit for them in terms of the effort. But now, New Generation, their hatch is being crashed upon by 7 Sins. They're going to be taken out with third parties in their direction. New Generation are able to breathe a sigh of relief.
New Generation down to 2 players just stuck in a shack right now. And then All Rejection Gaming edging in on the northeast. Not much cover, but they're managing to keep 3 of their players up. It's looking pretty dire, though, for All Rejection Gaming.
Well, yes and no. I would say it's looking worse for New Generation simply because of the fact that the Noisy Boys have pushed in. And New Generation know that they can't really have both players in the shack, but they're being pinched so heavily from all directions that they kind of have to. You can see they're trying to stay separated. One player from the Noisy Boys gets knocked. That's very good for New Generation's stranglehold and for their space. The circle shifts over to the east. The Shack of Dreams for New Generation is still in the circle.
100%. Just barely in the edge of that circle. All Rejection Gaming, though, I think they still have vehicles, so that might be a push, but that knock really slows everything down. The Noisy Boys got that reset.
Oh, no.
Banks, he sees the risk. If he misses with that Molotov, they are cooked in that shack by the Noisy Boys. Mazzaro, you talked about him. He is hitting the nades.
but they can't push too far forward because you have Dab Esports from the hill above stopping them from pushing. So one, now it was all Mazzaro was able to get off, and then Agon got knocked instantly. The blue zone's closing in on this phase 6. Mazzaro is going for the revive, but I don't think it's really worth it. TSC and Pajamas are slowing Dab Esports down. That could allow the Noisy Boys to push forward. They have a vehicle. I don't know how much they want to push it. All Rejection Gaming. Bobby Gang is left on his own. He has to move out. He has to move in. He doesn't know what he's able to do as the last lone survivor. 6 teams left up. 16 players. Now Mazzaro has given the opening to push on in. It's 1v2. We saw what Mazzaro can do in the PMPL Spring Split. Can he clutch it up against New Generation and end the dreams of this side inside the shack, looking to keep their PMCO Finals spot alive? A third party will do wonders as Mazzaro is on a sliver of health. Third party element is doing everything for New Generation. Another kill. Down goes the Noisy Boys. Down goes All Rejection Gaming. And New Generation, their game is still alive.
This is an intense final circle for New Generation, and Tropic also still in the game with only 2. They're deciding to keep playing quiet and laying low. Dab Esports, they're forced to come down now, but they might just get that revive unless the Forest pops off these double knocks. Does not hit the shots, unfortunately.
I get what Entropic are trying to do. They do only have 1 kill, and top 5 isn't bad. But is it going to be enough as All Rejection Gaming has 1 alive and Tropic go down? I don't know how many points they secured in that game, but time will tell. The last player from All Rejection already on 4 kills. This team is hovering on the edge of the blue. The next circle, phase 7, about to pop up. 4 teams left. 2 out of the 4 have nothing to lose, just to end on a high note. End their PMCO journey looking positive as Bobby Gang gets a knock on the side. The next circle shifts down south.
Oh, Bobby Gang. That player was stuck in the blue zone earlier. We saw a player from Dab on the hill sticking it this far in, but now the focus is New Generation. They need the chicken dinner. New Generation coming into this game with only 75 points. They have only 4 kill points so far. The chicken dinner will really hit them up to that 90-point mark. But without the zone and only 2 players going against a 4-man team of Dab and a 3-man team of TSC, it is looking rough, and the odds are definitely against them.
I love the fact they're still continuing to try and make some noise, try and suppress their opponents. Maskov gets knocked. Quashi of TSC in Pajamas doing a good job there, and that push from Dab Esports might allow New Generation to encroach into the circle unnoticed. As TSC in Pajamas maybe focus a little bit more heavily on Dab Esports, a confirmation comes out. New Generation, yes, they want kills, but they need points. Keeley on the new way. That knock, but indeed on the flatlands, he's gonna go down. Bangs. No first aids, only 3 bandages. He's further away from the circle while phase 7 closes in. TSC in Pajamas. Dab Esports gets a knock onto Reaper. 1 player left. Tika wrapping around. He picks up the healing of his teammate. Pulls off a first aid, but a knock takes him down. New Generation were able to secure 15 points. That's going to put them on 90. But this last game of the day comes down to TSC in Pajamas and Dab Esports.
Dab slowly encircling around. They've had control this whole time, and here you see it. The surround comes out. Quashi making a final stand, but Dab Esports will secure the final chicken dinner of the day, coming in huge with 24 points. But this being their very last game, and they only had 58, that is not enough. But hey, you got a chicken dinner. You ended it off in a bang. That is always a good thing. Boy, Imperium, there were 2 to 3 teams that really tried to force their way in. We saw Quattro start off huge, and then the rotations just got them. And New Generation, they hit that 90-point mark, like you said, but it's a very, very, just risky position to be in terms of, is it top 15 or is it not?
It's going to be so close. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
Not only in terms of the teams that have ended up around that 90-point mark, but again, it's cliche, but they're going to have to deal with the teams tomorrow and what they're going to be able to pull out. Let's not waste any more time. Let's throw it to the overall standings and see where these teams lie at the end of the day, what points they have secured in their PMCO Group Stage 1 run, so to speak. Again, like the teams that play 12 games, this is the end of their PMCO journey and points able to gather. Just a matter of what happens next.
So the front page, Noisy Boys coming in, of course, first place overall. Take those screenshots, Noisy Boys, because there's a good chance FDY or 4 Romanian Boys or even Mega Power La Familia, they got 4 games tomorrow. They might come out and take it ahead. Last fight in second. That's great to see. Tip Top in fourth. They do finish their games today, 124. Nothing to be scared of. But the one thing that stands out to me, Imperium, is on the front page, 92 points for 8th place. That is very, very close to that 90-point danger mark. So Chi Len, I mean, they're done playing. All they could do is watch our faces tomorrow and just see how the points rack out. Maybe they are in top 15. Maybe they might just miss it by a point or two.
Oh my God, let's move on to the next page as well. Entropic, that's what I thought. Entropic also being on 92 points in 9th. All Rejection Gaming on 90. New Generation on 90. Like, those 4 teams coming into tomorrow, their butts are going to be clenching massively. Absolutely insanely. Like, man. And by the way, on teams that end up on the same points, because of how the system works, it's a team with the higher amount of chicken dinners first, and then it goes from chicken dinners to placing points, and then from placing points to kill points. So the teams tomorrow, I would argue that maybe puts a little bit more emphasis on them chasing placing points as opposed to kill points.
Okay, or better yet, get that chicken dinner. But of course, I mean, that's what every team is trying to shoot for. And now moving down from the teams with 90 points here, we have Dab. Wow, actually, Dab, I said they did not get enough points, but that chicken dinner actually put them at 82 points. And Quattro Fakers, a team we were focusing on the whole entirety of that last match, picking up the early kills. They also end on 82. So Dab, credit, of course, that chicken dinner did come in huge, but only if they had one more game to play, or if they just did better in that one game where they feel like they should have done better. There's always next time.
like Dab got 2 chicken dinners in this PMCO. They can definitely hold that, but it does show that there was a massive lack of inconsistency in their performances and then need to go back to the drawing board in that regard. Of course, Defeaters, X-Team, and Sorry for Skill, they're 14th, 15th, and 16th. Those 3 teams have 4 games tomorrow to, of course, overtake the teams ahead. It's going to be probably quite easy, but anything can happen. Let's move on to the third page to see where other teams lie. Again, kind of a little bit more focus, more so on the teams that need to play tomorrow. Deuce, Red Moon, Team Kingsman, all on 60 to 61 points. Again, right now, they need 30 plus points.
If we just theoretically add 30 points onto them, that pretty much means the 90-point mark will have quite a few teams all hovering around 15th place. So this 90 point,
Yep.
it is definitely where the contention point is. It is not the amount of points you need to qualify. It's where the amount of points where you can barely maybe say you have qualified. And looking at this 61, 60, 60, 59, if their
Yeah.
performance, I mean, the entirety of this tournament, the middle, so to say, of the pack has been so close. That's going to mean, I believe in tomorrow's games, it's also going to get really close for the last two groups to play. And then when everything is said and done, it's going to get really close for the teams around
And
the 15th place in terms of points.
And that's where I kind of low key can't help but think that Red Moon are technically at a little bit more of an advantage compared to the rest of the teams in the four that we mentioned, because they have a chicken dinner secured. So if they end, ahead of Entropic, ahead of a couple of other teams, or on the same points as those teams, without them getting a chicken dinner, they'll be above them. So that's something to consider coming into tomorrow.
Yes.
Let's move on to the final page, of course. 25th to 32nd. Thank you to all of these teams that have played 12 games, Conquer Romania, Golden Sports, Seven Seasons. I really can't thank you all enough for playing in the PMCO, for representing your country, representing yourselves, and doing everything you can. I have a lot of respect, and I wish you all the best of luck in future PUBG Mobile tournaments.
Likewise, and if this is your first time competing, I just hope it was a fun experience. I hope the reason why you started playing competitive, you felt you got a taste of that again as the adrenaline was pumping, as undoubtedly there were arguments on your team. But hey, that is just one growing point for you to become a better player or even a better team. So let's take a look at the last page. New names in Douse Legion, 49 and 48. To get that 90-point mark, they need about 40 points, which is definitely doable. I wasn't able to really calculate how many points the teams got today in total, but 40 points in four games, definitely possible. By no means is Douse or new names counted out, even if they're on the last page. And MDC 38, that's kind of stretching it, but who knows? The one advantage, though, that all of these teams have coming in tomorrow is that they've seen the other groups play, so they have a clearer idea of the amount of points they need to shoot for game by game.
But technically, we're looking at the two most competitive lobbies into tomorrow, right? And that means that it might be a little bit tougher for the likes of new names and Douse Legion to get the results needed. Plus, coming into tomorrow, both of those teams are only lying on an average of roughly 6 points per game. So they need to really boost their average points per game to be up there. Never mind overtaking all the other teams that are playing tomorrow. Respect, the feeders. Team Kingsman. Like Douse and new names, they have a big time tomorrow.
Yeah, one thing we didn't really notice or talk about, at least we'll elaborate more tomorrow, but yeah, tomorrow is going to be the big name lobby. We will have a lot of big teams, so technically for all the teams needing to get those 90 points, regardless if they're at 60 or 50, it should mean it's harder for these teams in particular to get that 90 compared to the teams today who got their 90. So I am excited to see. I cannot wait for tomorrow, Imperium.
A lot of questions are going to be answered. Like we have said in the last couple of days, the destiny of these remaining 16 teams that are playing tomorrow is in their hands. They have the chance to push teams back to secure their spot in the finals. You are not going to want to miss it at home. Do not miss it at all. Have a lovely evening. Have a great day. Look after yourselves. And we'll see you same time, same place tomorrow.